Part 65. Fantasy, Me. Create a secret building at the beginning. Author, Mavericks Flying. Chapter 642. A Fairy King level weapon is presented. The 3 seventh patriarchs were waiting expectantly for the next chapter. At that time, the quasi-immortal emperors from one side of the world, including the God Emperor, had not left and were still in the world. Li Yun didn't let the 3 of them wait for too long. He told them directly. Didn't leave? The 7th patriarch's eyes lit up, and he fired 2 shots. With an unbelievable look, he lost his voice and said, even the God Emperor didn't leave. Back then, he had just become the immortal king. The reason why he survived in the Underworld War was thanks to the protection of the other 6 immortal kings of the Lu clan. It was precisely because he was well protected that he was lucky enough to see the God Emperor alive. One side. Even if it was only one side, the supreme grace, the domineering power to suppress the world, and the spirit of making all the strong men in the world surrender with every gesture would still make him unforgettable for a long time. If the God Emperor was still in the world in the 10,000 realms, no matter how the Lord of the Senluo Ghost territory plots, isn't it all a mirror image? It is true that he cannot interrupt the plan of the Lord of the Senluo Ghost territory. But what about the quasi-immortal emperor in all the heavens and the 10,000 realms? Or the gods? Where is the emperor? If the God Emperor takes action, wouldn't it be possible to kill the Lord of the Senluo Ghost territory instantly with just one look? Senior, if the God Emperor and other powerful quasi-immortal emperors have not left the heavens and worlds, why have they not shown up for so many years? Are you doing penance? Still inconvenient? Lu Xiancheng asked curiously. Logically speaking, this era is equally glorious and has given birth to many amazing and talented people, such as Lu Qinghong and the Taoist master of the Xianfeng ancient road. These are the geniuses that make people look at them. In the previous eras, people like Xiang Lu Qinghong may have been accepted as subordinates by a certain quasi-immortal emperor. But the strange thing is that the previous quasi-immortal emperors did not do this. They all disappeared with a tacit understanding. They all just watch things with cold eyes. This is very unusual. Even the quasi-immortal emperor is just a stronger creature. Some people will not let go of their power easily. They prefer to rule the heavens and be respected by all races. Them. Li Yun chuckled, glanced at the system panel in front of him, and said quietly, I'm afraid you will see them soon. Estimated time, no more than a month. A month. The 7 ancestors looked at each other, feeling inexplicably excited in their hearts. At this point in their lives, time is just a number. Not to mention 1 month, it is 10,000 years. In their eyes, it is just the blink of an eye. Among the 3, Lu Qinzi, the youngest, is also Lu Qingyu's elder. You can imagine how many years they have lived. Is this senior's statement serious? Lu Qinzi, who had been silent all the time, asked in a low voice. In the past, Master Tianji always kept his words concise and to the point. At great cost to himself, Master Tianji often gave only a few words in reply. But today is different. An immortal king level item actually made the owner of Tianji say so much at once. It gave them a sense of unreality. When have I lied to you? Li Yun asked back. As soon as these words came out, everyone immediately felt at ease. Senior Tianji Luzu had indeed never deceived them. He only occasionally hid some information. But this time, it was obvious that Tianji Luzu had nothing to hide. Since he said that the God Emperor and others are still in the heavens and the world, they must be in the heavens and the world. As for whether the God Emperor and the others will encounter any changes. Just kidding. Even the underworld back then, the masters have all been wiped out, and all the heavens and worlds are in boundless chaos. Who else is the opponent of the God Emperor? Come to think of it, the God Emperor is hiding somewhere, preparing to study the next realm. After all, it may not be above the immortal emperor. It is the end of the world of cultivation. And the God Emperor obviously wants to be a pioneer and lead everyone to take that unprecedented step. If that's the case, maybe we don't need to worry about the plans of the Lord of the Senluo Ghost territory. Lu Suanquan's heart, which had been hanging around, was finally relieved. Is it? The seventh patriarch looked at Lu Xiancheng and then at the Tianji building master. He felt vaguely that something was wrong, but for a moment, he couldn't remember what was wrong. He could only suppress the thoughts in his heart temporarily. Senior, since quasi-immortal Emperor Chance is about to be born, I wonder if there are any dangers involved. The seventh patriarch asked again. There are dangers, of course. Have you ever seen any opportunities in this world that were given to you for free? Li Yun said jokingly. This sentence left the seventh patriarch speechless. The seventh patriarch laughed dryly and asked helplessly, if this junior wants to gain something from that opportunity, how much price will it have to pay? He. Li Yun chuckled and said lightly, no matter how much you pay, you will gain a lot. I can guarantee that what you gain will definitely be much more than what you paid. Oh. This was the first time the seventh ancestor heard about this matter. A trace of deep thought flashed across his face. He took out a few rare things and placed them in front of Li Yun. Senior, can these things bring us some opportunities we want? I'm afraid it's not enough. Li Yun shook his head and took a look at the things in front of him. There were a total of 5 immortal king level things on it, as well as a few immortal level things. Although they were valuable, what the seventh ancestor and others wanted was to become a quasi-immortal. Immortal Emperor. This is a bit difficult. Because before the seventh patriarch and others, everyone wanted to become a quasi-immortal emperor, so it depends on who bids higher. On the surface, it looks like an auction. But in reality, in fact, they don't know each other how much the others have contributed. Only Li Yun understands everything. Later, the juniors and descendants will send some resources. The juniors have already told them to send them directly to Tianji Tower. I think they already know the methods of the seniors. So, senior, look. The seventh ancestor said slightly awkwardly. This is already the biggest price the Lu family can pay. Now, the 3 of them have been completely drained, and even the entire Lu clan is about to be hollowed out. If they can't get what they want in exchange for it, there is really no other way. Li Yun's consciousness dispersed, and he glanced at the chaos. Sure enough, he saw several people from the Lu clan who were on their way. He knew that the seventh ancestor and others did not dare to deceive him. Immediately, he turned his palm, and a jade slip appeared. To the seventh patriarch. There is what you want here. When the time comes, the content will naturally emerge. The juniors understand. The seventh ancestor's spiritual consciousness penetrated into the jade slip, and there was a blank inside. He wanted to ask, but after hearing Li Yun's words, he swallowed back the rest of the words wisely. With the reputation of Tianji Tower, it seems that he did not deceive them. Necessary. And the owner of Tianji. It is impossible for him to destroy his own sign for a few resources. If there are no other problems, you can leave. Li Yun waved his hand and said slowly. He glanced outside the Tianji Tower. In this moment, there were already many people outside, and several of them were immortal kings who had hidden their identities. These men, the purpose of coming to Tianji Tower is self-evident. Compared to the seventh ancestor and others who have been squeezed dry, he still likes the arrival of other immortal kings with huge wealth. After all, these are all leaks. Or in other words, it is to send wealth. Boy. After harvesting 1 or 2 waves by yourself, he will probably become the immortal emperor soon. By then, he will have a place in all the worlds. Senior. The seventh ancestor hesitated for a moment. He glanced at the outside world and said with some worry, I dare to ask, Senior, What did Feng Sheng and Lu Qingyu ask before them? Li Yun chuckled and said lightly, some of the problems are the same as yours, but they can't afford the price. In the end, they asked me for a list. What list? The seventh patriarch asked. 5 immortality items. Li Yun said slowly. As soon as he finished speaking, Lu Xiancheng directly delivered the things next to him. This is what they want. Li Yun waved his hand and sent out another jade slip. The seventh patriarch reached out to take it, his spiritual consciousness penetrated it, and he was a little surprised and said, is this the list of people who have entered the Tianji Tower before and in the future? Good. Li Yun nodded. To be honest, this news is not very valuable. As long as a top immortal king is patient enough and guards the door of Tianji Tower every day, he can know who has entered Tianji Tower from beginning to end. But it is a pity that no immortal king would be so boring. Therefore, the master of Tianmang Mountain can be regarded as pointing out a clear path for them. With this list in hand, whoever goes to Tianji Tower in the future, who if you have never been to Tianji Tower, you can tell it at a glance. Of course. These people enter Tianji Tower, what questions were asked is not something they can know. Because most people don't have that financial resources. Seniors and juniors, I have one last question. The seventh ancestor pondered for a moment, and then asked in a deep voice, Junior would like to know, do the 2 masters of Tianmang Mountain just now know more about the arrangement of our Lu family? As well as, after the future quasi-immortal Emperor Chance is born, will anyone else know about our arrangements? The Lu clan has spent a lot of effort and deployed many means to the west of the heavenly demon realm. These things are their trump cards. If their trump card is known from the Tianji Tower, then this trump card will be lost. Meaning, what they fear most is not being seen through, but worrying about being seen through without them knowing it. In that case, if someone takes advantage of the scheme, they may be caught off guard. Now, ask in the Tianji Tower, it can also give them some confidence. 5 immortality items. Li Yun spat out a few words again. Seventh Patriarch. He was a little envious in his heart. If he had this ability, wouldn't the entire Lu family make a lot of money directly? This is a way to make money while lying down. It is estimated that in all the worlds, only the owner of Tianji Tower can do it. Lu Xiancheng took 2 steps forward and sent out 5 more immortality realm items. When he went back, he gave the 7th ancestor a wink. The meaning is very clear. My place is completely empty. If there is another problem next, I'm afraid I won't be able to pay the price. The 7th ancestor understood. He nodded slightly to show that he understood, and then looked at the master of Tianji with hope. On this issue, you can rest assured that others will not inquire about your arrangements, but will arrange a formation themselves. As for the Lord of Tianmang Mountain and others, they do not have strong financial resources. Li Yun said slowly. This is just like the previous Tianyuan world. As long as any holy land sends people to enter the Tianji Tower, they can know how to break the opponent's mountain protecting formation. But the result is that, except for the 9 nether demon after the sect did this, other sects did not send anyone to do this. What they were afraid of was being besieged. Now, the opportunity is ahead for the quasi-immortal emperor. Even if someone wants to know how the people of the Lu family arranged their arrangements, so what? Outside of the quasi-immortal emperor's chance, the Lu family is not the only one who left behind, either they don't know, or they all know. Instead of trying to figure out what others did, it's better to arrange it yourself. A formation. At least. I won't be too passive. Because of this, today's western part of the demon realm is already covered with many formations, which can be said to be a killing opportunity. In the entire world, there is probably no place more powerful. Dangerous. Once the quasi-immortal emperor is born by chance, various formations are activated, which is almost enough to destroy everything. Any immortal king who does not know the situation will definitely fail if he breaks in. In this case, the junior is relieved. 7 Breathing a sigh of relief, he cupped his hands and said, "Junior, I will leave for now." Li Yun nodded. After the 7th ancestor and others left the Tianji Tower, at the end of the street, the Lord of Tianmang Mountain and Lu Qingyu stood side by side. He looked at the 7th ancestor and the others not far away, with a trace of interest flashing in his eyes. "Look. It seems that they have got the news they want, but I wonder if they know the plan of the Lord of the Senluo Ghost Territory." The Lord of Tianmang Mountain said softly. He used to be a subordinate of the underworld, but now he naturally wants to see the plan of the Lord of the Senluo Ghost Territory succeed. Fantasy, me. Create a secret building at the beginning. Author, Mavericks Flying. Chapter 643. By this time, it no longer matters whether they know it or not. Lu Qingyu shook his head. In the Tianji Tower, he had just learned that there was a quasi-immortal emperor existing in the underworld, which made him feel relieved. Originally, he was still a little uneasy about seeking refuge in the underworld. After all, the underworld has been destroyed. It is unwise to join the underworld at this time. But when he knew that there was a quasi-immortal emperor in the underworld, all his worries disappeared instantly. Is there a quasi-immortal emperor? But the underworld has such an absolutely invincible strong man. What is this? This is a big advantage. By joining the underworld, doesn't it mean that he has abandoned the dark and turned to the light? The previous underworld was indeed defeated, but today, there is no strong person in all the worlds. It is hard to say whether the underworld will still be defeated this time. After the underworld sweeps across the world, you will inevitably rebuild the Lu family on the ruins of the Lu family. At that time, you will be the hero of the Lu family. The Lord of Tianmang Mountain said meaningfully. Obviously. He also believes that the re-emergence of the underworld this time is almost stable. Of course. It would be even better if we can seize the last opportunity. Ah! Lu Qingyu glanced at the Lord of Tianmang Mountain and chuckled, without commenting on his words. At the same time, the west of the demon world. There is chaos here, everything is gray, you can't tell up, down, left, and right, there is no concept of heaven and earth, the surrounding fog is surging, and it is extremely silent. On weekdays, no outsiders will come here at all. Firstly, the reason for coming here is because this place is not far from the heavenly demon realm. If you come here rashly, you may be targeted by the powerful people from the heavenly demon realm, and it will be difficult to escape by then. Secondly, it's because this place was a battlefield in the underworld war in the past. After all, during the war that year, the heavenly demon realm side had already invaded the mainland of the heavenly demon realm. Later, due to the emergence of the Lord of the Senluo Ghost Territory, the heavenly demon realm was barely saved. The war has long passed and the flames of war have dissipated. But in the boundless mist, one can still see from time to time, huge bodies, as big as mountains, draining blood. After so long, it seems as if these corpses have not been eroded by time. Still lifelike. What is even more worrying is that some of the broken formations left over from that time have not yet expired. Even if the immortal king is running around here, he may encounter some serious troubles. Today, this area of chaos set off waves for the first time. Roar. A dragon roar came, shocking the earth and shattering billions of miles of chaos. A huge blue dragon, millions of miles long, shattered the void, like a great wall, lying across the chaos, with no beginning or end visible. It was shocking. A pair of eyes like the sun and moon opened and closed in the void, blooming billions of rays of light, extremely dazzling. His whole body was covered with blue scales, shining with an icy luster. On his skull, a talisman appeared. The beam reached the sky, tearing apart the universe and causing the years in this void to flow backwards. That's right. This place should be the location mentioned by the owner of Tianji. Qinglong spat out cold words, like thunder exploding and rumbling, and the whole chaos was shaking violently. He stood there, overwhelming the 3 realms and 6 realms, fighting bulls with anger, and he was the only one in the world. The extremely powerful aura of the immortal king, spreading out unabashedly, like Wang Yang, flooding the sky and the earth. Unexpectedly, I was the first to arrive. Qinglong laughed. That's fine. Let me arrange it calmly. Qinglong shouted softly, and he opened his mouth, and 99 and 81 blue beads flew out, each one as big as a star. They bloomed with endless brilliance, just like 81 little suns, covering a radius of hundreds of millions of miles. Then, 81 stars rotated in a mysterious trajectory, casting a large screen of light, completely covering the void, forming a huge formation. Just before Yuanzu was about to when it disappeared, a huge palm spread from the end of the sky. The sun and moon rotated in the palm, with the breath of creating the world, rumbling down. It was like the hand of God, unstoppable. Boom! Grabbing it with his palm, 81 stars were crushed and exploded, turning into bright fireworks that bloomed in the void. It was extremely stunning and dazzling. It illuminated the huge chaos. What do you want to arrange? The moment the ball exploded, a cold voice came faintly. Who? Seeing that his arrangement turned into running water, Qinglong was shocked and angry. He raised his head, and there was a cold murderous intention in the dark golden dragon eyes. A pressure of the immortal king that had almost condensed into substance, he looked at in all directions, madness spread out. In the surrounding void, a hurricane was set off, completely sweeping away the chaos and mist. An indifferent voice came. A figure walked slowly, every step was hundreds of millions of miles away. 1 second he was outside the boundless starry sky, and the next second he was in front of Qinglong. He looked like a human being. 2, but the light green flames were swirling all over his body, turning into a sea of fire with every step he took. When he confronted Qinglong, behind him, the sea of fire was already rising into the sky. He himself was like a fire god coming to the world, sweeping the entire chaos into chaos. It was completely ignited, and the terrifying temperature caused the void to twist. It burned down the heaven and the earth. It seemed that the long river of time could be melted. He stood there quietly, and suddenly suppressed a solemn feeling in the sky and the earth. The breath makes people breathless, and there is silence all around. Only the sea of fire is raging silently. Who are you, King Ying? A trace of doubt flashed across Qinglong's huge eyes. After he looked at this person carefully, he seemed to think of something in his heart, and said in a voiceless voice. 34th on the immortal king list. With his strength, he could remember all the names of the people on the list of immortal kings at a glance. He is ranked 34th and has experienced a battle in the underworld. The immortal kings who survived are naturally very important. And more importantly, King Ying is a figure from the underworld. It's hard for him not to know. Azure Dragon King. King Ying stood with his hands behind his back, with a deep coldness in his eyes. He said indifferently, I'm just a junior. If you step back to avoid death, if you take a step forward, it will be the road to death. You. The Azure Dragon King was furious. He came from the heavenly demon realm, which is also a powerful world. The demon clan is the most respected among them. During the war in the underworld in the past, the heavenly demon realm stood on the side of the heavens and all realms. In that battle, the heavenly demon realm lost a lot of money. It was tragic. The ancestors of the dragon clan had also participated in the war, so he knew a lot about that battle. He also deeply understood the power of King Ying. But no matter what, he was also the king and ancestor in the world of demons. Has been arrogant in the heavenly demon realm for countless years, But if he was scared off by King Ying today, how could he hang out in the heavenly demon realm in the future? How could he discuss friendship with them in front of heroes from all over the world? Do you think that just because you are on the Immortal King list, you can do whatever you want? Qinglong King said coldly. So what? King Ying's voice was indifferent. He looked in all directions, with disdain in his eyes, and said, "How dare an unknown person on the list make noise in front of me?" He. The Qinglong King sneered. He stretched out one of his dragon claws, scratched the void for billions of miles, and pressed it towards King Ying. "I want to see today whether the Immortal King list is really worthy of its name." From the bottom of his heart, King Qinglong himself was extremely reluctant to confront King Ying. Before he took action, he already understood that he could not be his opponent. No matter what, he survived the battle in the underworld. In such a cruel war, how could any weak person survive? On the other hand, he himself was born after the end of the underworld war. In terms of years, he was far behind, and his strength was naturally even worse. Much more. But he had to take action today. Firstly, if he left like this, then the word Qinglong King would become a joke. Secondly, he wanted to see how valuable the Immortal King list was. If King Ying defeats him without any effort, then when he sees the powerful ones on the Immortal King list, he will just walk around without saying a word. But if the fight is difficult at the beginning and it takes a while to defeat him, then that's easy to say. Even if I am not on the list, I think the gap in strength between the other Immortal Kings on the list is not too big. In the future, when I meet the strong ones on the Immortal King list, I can also say a few harsh words. Act recklessly. King Ying's face was cold, and he shouted softly. Come on. Boom, outside the boundless chaos, far away in the world of demons, the earth exploded, and a faint green brilliance rose into the sky, cut through the mist of chaos, and penetrated all the heavens and worlds. It landed directly here. Space. What is that? Outside the distant void? Two figures stood side by side, looking at the Qinglong King and Ying Wang in the distance. The two figures were none other than the second ancestor of the Lu family and Lu Qinghong. At this time, Lu Qinghong's eyes Ningzhong, seeing King Ying take action for the first time, he felt a great sense of oppression in his heart. He thought to himself that if he faced the opponent, the chance of winning would be very slim. It is estimated that the possibility of defeat is greater. After all, there are more than 30 people on the Immortal King list, but he is outside the 50th place. There is a huge difference. That's the Immortal Refining Tower. The second ancestor next to Lu Qinghong looked very ugly. He was also a person who survived the war in the underworld, but it was a pity that he was not on the list. But even if he was not on the list, it did not affect his vision at all. Especially the Immortal Refining Tower. He is too familiar with it. In the past, one of the 7 ancestors of the Lu family was suppressed under the Immortal Refining Tower and was refined. Immortal Refining Tower. Lu Qinghong murmured to himself. This is King Ying's weapon. It was brilliant in the past, forcibly refining several immortal kings. Today, it has been fully resurrected, showing the supreme majesty of the ancient immortal kings. It is crystal clear and emits eternal brilliance, illuminated the entire chaos, quickly pressing down on the Azure Dragon King, its divine power stretching for billions of miles. This weapon has been refined by King Ying for countless years. Every ray of pressure makes the immortal king tremble, regardless of the distance. No matter how far away it is, it's terrifying. I can't escape from here right away. The further away, the better. Buzz. Wisps of green light burst out, making all the heavens and worlds dim. They were incomparable. There was no brilliance in front of it. Below the ancient tower, rules fell down one after another, like the will of God, turned into a divine way. The chains were locked in all directions, trapping the entire Qinglong King. Sonorous. The dragon claws collided with the Shinto chains. There was a sound of cracking through the golden clouds. The terrifying aftermath spread in all directions, and the whole chaos boiled, almost annihilating everything. Hold head high. The dragon roar came out, and the Azure Dragon King was pushed back hundreds of millions of miles, but the immortal refining tower remained motionless. There was a rare trace of panic in his dark golden eyes. In ancient books, he knew something about the immortal refining tower. If he is covered by it, even if he has the power to reach the sky, there will only be one final end. That is the fall. In ancient times, so many immortal kings were refined. He did not think that his strength was stronger than other immortal kings. Run. As soon as this idea came out, the Qinglong king was about to run away. The test was over. The first collision could not even shake the opponent's weapons. It can be seen how big the gap between the two people is. If they don't leave. Wait. After a while. I'm afraid I won't be able to leave at all. Want to escape? Prince Ying's eyes were cold. He pressed down with 5 fingers to refine the immortal dot with a loud shock. He quickly caught up with the Azure Dragon King and pressed down in the air, the Shinto chains clanking, completely trapping a large area of void, turning the whole world into a prison. No. The Azure Dragon King roared in despair. He had spent a huge price and had not had time to find the opportunity to be a quasi-immortal emperor. He did not want to die in vain, but in front of the absolute strength of King Ying, he had no power to resist. He could only watch. Falling down to the immortal refining tower. At the last, critical moment, a peaceful voice slowly came over. King Ying, as a remnant of the underworld, if you don't hide in the heavenly demon world to survive, if you step out of the heavenly demon world today, aren't you afraid of falling here? The sound echoed between heaven and earth. A palm as white as jade stretched out from the void, tearing the rules of Shinto to pieces, giving the Qinglong king a moment of respite. The Qinglong king quickly shrunk without any hesitation. The body came out of the crack. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Fantasy, me. Create a secret building at the beginning. Author, Mavericks Flying. Chapter 644. Thank you fellow Taoist for your help. The Qinglong king emerged from under the immortal refining tower. He quickly transformed into a burly middle-aged man wearing a green robe. He came to the person who helped him and cupped his hands, with endless gratitude in his words. If without this person's help, I'm afraid I would have died on the spot. No problem. Lu Qinghong waved his hand and said with a smile, it's just a little effort. Across from them, King Ying's face was cold, and the sea of fire behind him set off tens of thousands of waves, shattering the boundless chaos, and completely twisting the entire void. The extremely terrifying pressure was like Mount Tai lowering itself, facing Lu Qinghong. 3 people fell head over heels. Bang! Lu Qinghong has a tall figure, sword-shaped eyebrows, and starry eyes. He is dressed in a white robe with a haunting sound. His posture is upright, like a rock in the boundless king's sun, letting the waves soar into the sky. I am standing still. He stands beside the second ancestor and the Qinglong king. In front of me, I resisted all the pressure from the opponent. Lu Qinghong. Prince Ying narrowed his eyes, and a cold light flashed deep in his eyes. He glanced at the second ancestor, with no concealment of murderous intent, and said lightly, the descendants of the Lu family's 7 losers. The Lu family is very famous in the god realm. Most of them were fought by the 7 kings of the Lu family in the battle in the underworld, and the reputation of the Lu family can be maintained to this day. And some of them are Lu Qinghong's contribution. After all. In any case, Lu Qinghong was also the first person in the god realm in the past, and it was said that he was the first person under the quasi-immortal emperor. There is no need to say much about his talent. Although King Ying has not met Lu Qinghong, He has seen him. The 7 kings of the Lu family met their second ancestor today. They were looking at Lu Qinghong. Everything became clear in an instant. You wanna die? Lu Qinghong didn't react yet, but the second ancestor couldn't hold it back. He took a step forward, and a violent aura burst out from his old body, sweeping the world. If King Ying said he was a waste, he would not be angry. Because he knew that he was no match for King Ying. But to say that the 7 kings of the Lu family in the past were all trash would be a slap in the face. How? King Ying was indifferent, as if he was facing the provocation of an ant. He sneered and said quietly, "Want to take action? In the past, Lu Jingtian was suppressed by me under the immortal refining tower. Do you want to accompany him?" You. The second ancestor's body was trembling, and the anger in his chest was burning. The anger almost eroded all his sanity. Among the Lu clan back then, only the great ancestor was the most amazing and talented, and his strength was still above that of King Ying. If he had lived to this day, he would be among the top 30 on the list of immortal kings. There must be a place for the great ancestor of the Lu family. But it's a pity. At that time, the great ancestor of the Lu family fought against 2 top immortal kings of the underworld. Although he killed each other, he was also seriously injured. In the end, King Ying took advantage of him. If the great ancestor was in good condition, how could King Ying dare to fight against the great ancestor? I am standing here today. If you want to avenge Lu Jingtian, just come up. I will not refuse anyone who comes. King Ying's eyes were stern, overflowing with domineering power, and his majestic figure suppressed the sky and the earth. The boundless sea of fire spread, and everyone who was oppressed could not breathe. Good. I will avenge my eldest brother today. The second ancestor was furious. He immediately took a step forward and was about to take action directly. However, at the last moment, Lu Qinghong reached out and held him back. Lu Qinghong shook his head slightly and said through a message. The second ancestor calmed down. King Ying did this on purpose. There is still a quasi-immortal emperor hiding in the world of demons. If we really take action, we will be in danger. Although Lu Qinghong is also very angry. But before, the 7th ancestor sent them news that the lord of the Senluo ghost territory in the demon realm is a quasi-immortal emperor. They have known it for a long time. Now they will take action against King Ying. Lu Qinghong he is sure that he will not be defeated in a short time, but he is not sure whether the domain master of Senluo Gaixiao will take action. If the other party takes action, everyone present may not be able to escape. The Lord of Senluo ghost territory. The second ancestor recited these words over and over again, as if he had magic power. He quickly regained his composure. He was not a fool, but he was just overwhelmed by anger. Now that he had calmed down, he glanced at King Ying coldly. His mouth was cold. He drank and said indifferently. The underworld has been destroyed in the past, and today there is only a world of demons left. Do you think you can continue to be rampant? Poor, sad, deplorable. A bunch of pathetic people. King Ying looked at the people below, with a sneer in his eyes, and said, "A group of people who are kept in the dark are ignorant and don't even know it. Whatever. Today I'm giving you a ride. On the way to reincarnation, don't forget my name. When the underworld is rebuilt, I will arrange a good next life for you." Bang. As soon as he finished speaking, King Ying stepped forward, and the sky filled with flames, roaring out. Among them were real dragons, divine phoenixes, basalts, and white tigers, covered in divine flames, swooping down. There were fires everywhere in the sky and on the ground. The sky was filled with chaos, and mist was burned out, as terrifying as if it could burn out the whole world. The terrifying temperature made people almost suffocate. The Qinglong king, who was standing next to Lu Qinghong, turned green all of a sudden. This was too terrifying. Feelings. Just now King Ying still retains his strength. If he attacks with all his strength, can Lu Qinghong next to him be able to stop him? There is a 34th immortal king on the list, and a 53rd immortal king on the list. There is a difference of nearly 20 people. No one can tell how much difference in actual strength there is. It may be very small, or it may be a huge difference. After all, King Ying is a figure who has already risen before the underworld war. Lu Qinghong is in the wonderful Yan is also one era shorter than others. This gap is too big. King Ying, do you want to start a war between the demon world and the heavens and worlds? The moment after King Ying took action, another cold voice came over. At the end of the sky, Fairy Phoenix's sword and fairy sounds sounded. A streak of auspicious colors and a streak of divine brilliance paved a crimson avenue. A graceful red figure stepped on it, coming from a distance. The person's body was flashing with fairy light, and his appearance could not be seen clearly. But with just a trace of aura, he could feel that this was a person of unparalleled splendor. His steps are light, and he has the aura of a supreme immortal king, which is rising steadily, shaking the 9 heavens above, and frightening the 9 nether worlds below. All things have spirits and must be surrendered. As if he dominates the will of heaven and earth, the avenue sheds countless brilliance on it, one by one, wisps of wisps hang down from the void like waterfalls, surrounding this brilliant and blazing body. At this moment, there is silence in all directions. There are images of countless creatures around, bowing in this direction, as if asking for shelter. It's Fengzhu. The Qinglong king was trembling with excitement. Fengzhu was born in the heavenly demon realm, and he was a creature of the same world. Fengzhu was also in the heavenly demon realm. She was the only one on the list of immortal kings, ranking a little higher than Lu Qinghong. Ranked 46th on the immortal king list. With her coming forward, and Lu Qinghong at 53rd place, he should be able to deal with a Ying Wang at 34th place. You're not dead. King Ying was slightly shocked when he saw the person coming, but then he recovered and said softly, it's no wonder that the phoenix has reached nirvana. On the list of immortal kings, there are too many people who have been confirmed to have fallen. In addition to the top 10. There are also many people in the top 50 who have been seen by others as having fallen. But with the appearance of the immortal king list, and the news that all the people on the list were alive came out in the Tianji Tower, many people became curious about the dead immortal kings. And this phoenix ancestor, is the first one, the immortal king who was seen dead and then resurrected with his own eyes. How can I die if the underworld is not destroyed? Fengzhu's voice was cold. She stood high in the sky, floating out of the dust. She was wearing a red dress, fluttering in the wind, as if she was a Guanggan fairy who fell into the mortal world. Her pretty face was crystal clear, her eyes were bright, and there was something hidden in her. She had a deep murderous intention, but she still restrained herself. That year, the heavenly demon realm was invaded by the underworld, and the entire heavenly demon realm suffered heavy losses. In addition to her own death, the entire Phoenix clan was also massacred. After she was resurrected, she suddenly discovered that the heavenly demon realm had suffered heavy losses. The demon world has completely changed. The Phoenix clan has become extinct, the Dragon clan has been severely weakened, and more than half of the other clans have been killed by the underworld. If it weren't for the critical moment when the quasi-immortal emperor was about to be born, she would have taken action against King Ying first, regardless of the situation. But with the quasi-immortal emperor, the matter of genocide must be put aside first. After all, she also knows that there are still many strong people in the demon world, especially many immortal kings in the underworld who are still alive. Lu Wudao occupies a great deal of weight. Who can guarantee that? Is Lu Wudao still in the heavenly demon realm? It is extremely irrational to take action at this time. Maybe he has fallen, and he still cannot avenge his genocide. only he has become a quasi-immortal emperor. So that the underworld of that year can pay for its blood debt with blood. Ah! King Ying chuckled. He waved his hand and dispersed the sea of fire. 2 strong men on the immortal king list came to the other side. There was no point in continuing to fight. He thought that he could be protected by Lu Qinghong. Zhen killed the Qinglong king and the second ancestor. But he was not sure, and he joined forces to fight against Fengzhu and Lu Qinghong at the same time. At the moment, in the demon realm, other strong men have not come yet, and he is a little alone. He also knows that the opponent, the reason why he didn't take action was probably because he was afraid of the Lord of the Senluo ghost territory. This place is the closest to the heavenly demon realm. Although he is the only one here, it is no different from the entire heavenly demon realm coming here. More importantly, at the beginning, the 3 Lu clans the king escaped from the heavenly demon realm. It is estimated that the news that the Lord of the Senluo ghost territory is a quasi-immortal emperor cannot be concealed. The news from Tianji Tower is really accurate. In just a short time, it has attracted so many powerful people. It is really a pity that we could not meet the owner of Tianji Tower. King Ying said with a chuckle. As for whether these words are true or false, he doesn't know. The owner of the Tianji Tower is a powerful person in all the worlds. People in the underworld who step into the Tianji Tower rashly may only get in but not get out. The second ancestor said coldly. Is it? King Ying was unmoved and continued, but why did I hear that the Lord of Tianmang Mountain and Lu Qingyu of your Lu clan have both entered the Tianji Tower? As soon as these words came out, Lu Qinghong and the second ancestor clearly noticed that many strange eyes were falling on them. Although there were only a few people in the scene, secretly, something was coming. No one can tell clearly how many strong men there are. After all, not everyone rushes into the chaos like the Azure Dragon King. Even when he comes here, he does not hide his aura at all. Lu Qingyu betrayed the Lu clan, and our Lu clan will naturally settle with him in the future. Lu Qinghong said in a deep voice. Not only secretly, even Fengzhu frowned slightly just now. I am afraid that except for the Qinglong king who was saved by them just now, he still slightly believes in the Lu clan. I am afraid that everyone else I am beginning to be a little wary of the Lu clan. This is not a good thing. If the Lu clan is opposed by the heavens and the world, then any subsequent actions will be very difficult. Even if Lu Qinghong is on the immortal king list strong, it won't help at all. I don't know, not long ago, the 3 kings of the Lu family obtained the inheritance of immortal Emperor Yuanhui from the demon realm and left safely. Did you inform others? With a smile on his face, King Ying once again threw out a big killing weapon. After this appeared, it was no less than a storm, sweeping through the entire chaos. The 3 kings of the Lu family have been to the heavenly demon realm. Immortal Emperor Yuanhui stayed in the heavenly demon realm. Not only were the inheritance of the Lu family taken away by the 3 kings of the Lu family, but they also left the heavenly demon realm unscathed. How is this possible? Many powerful people in the heavenly demon realm are all just living on hard work. Especially the Lord of the Senluo ghost territory. How could such a supremely powerful person watch 3 immortal kings leave in a swaggering manner after entering the world of demons? Are you sowing discord? Lu Qinghong's eyebrows turned cold and he spoke in a cold voice. Are you trying to sow discord? Just go to Tianji Tower and ask and you will understand, right? After all, I admire the senior master of Tianji Tower very much. He can predict that the quasi-immortal emperor will be born soon. How could it not be calculated that the 3 kings of the Lu family have never been to the demon realm? King Ying said slowly. Fantasy, me. Create a secret building at the beginning. Author, Mavericks Flying. Chapter 645. Silence. The west of the demon world. Amidst the vast chaos, there was deathly silence. Many immortal kings were hiding in the dark. After hearing King Ying's words, everyone had a thoughtful look on their face. have to say. What King Ying said makes sense. But it does not rule out that the other party is sowing discord. But there is still a big risk in trusting the Lu family rashly. What if the Lu family is acting with the demon world? In the end, those who suffer must be their theatergoers. At this time, the best policy is to keep a respectful distance from the Lu family. Lu Qinghong's eyes narrowed, and an undisguised killing intent bloomed deep in his eyes. The other party's intentions were so sinister. Just a few sentences. This pushed the Lu clan almost to a dead end. There is no need for the forces in other worlds to all be hostile to the Lu clan. As long as they are on guard, it will be almost impossible for the Lu clan to compete for the opportunity to become the quasi-immortal emperor. Because, no matter it is the world of demons, not even the other forces in the world would watch helplessly as a member of the Lu family became a quasi-immortal emperor. He said, but is it true? Fengzhu has bright eyes, skin like snow, a tall figure, and a slender waist. Her clothes are fluttering, and she stands in the void with an unusually cold voice. Fellow Taoist, don't listen to his words. The second ancestor said. He glanced at King Ying and said with hatred in his voice, in the past, in the Lu family, in order to resist the invasion of the underworld, 5 immortal kings fell. Among them, my eldest brother died in the immortal refining. Under the tower. How can I, the Lu clan, join the underworld and help the evil tyrants? Fengzhu nodded slightly when he heard the words. What he said is true. Lu Qingyu, one of the Lu clan, might be forgiven for joining the underworld side. After all, he had never witnessed the brutality of that battle. His hatred for his ancestors may have, I don't take it to heart at all. But the 7th ancestor of the Lu family is different from the second ancestor. They all survived that battle and even saw the death of their brothers. It is impossible for them to join the underworld due to emotion and reason. Different Fengzhu thought to himself that he carried endless hatred, and it was also impossible for him to resolve his past feud with the underworld. Death is not the end of life. There are 6 reincarnations in the underworld, and all those who die can be reincarnated. King Ying didn't take it seriously and said in an ethereal voice. Think about it. The owner of Tianji should be well aware of this. Although he has never been to Tianji Tower, he has been paying attention to the news from the outside world. He understands the value of the 4 words Master of Tianji Tower now. He is a man who knows everything. What he said is estimated to affect the whole universe. Almost all cultivators will weigh it. Just go to Tianji Tower and ask. They will understand that everything they say is true. King Ying. At this time, a deep voice came, and in the chaotic mist, several figures walked over hand in hand. Each of them had an aura as vast as the abyss, like a supreme being, coming on the long river of time. There were people around them. It was a terrifying scene of time fragments flying and gods flying across the sky. At the front was a middle-aged man, wearing a light golden battle suit, like a god emperor descending into the mortal world. As soon as he appeared, terrifying fluctuations surged into the sky. Above, the void completely collapsed and spread out all at once. The sky collapsed and the earth shattered. The power of the supreme immortal king competed with King Ying. The senior master of Tianji House has a wonderful calculation. He can calculate whether the 3 kings of the Lu family have been to the heavenly demon world. Naturally, he can also calculate whether the Lu family has joined the underworld. The majestic voice rumbled in the void, shaking the blood. On the contrary, Lu Qinghong and the second ancestor looked gratefully at the middle-aged man who had just appeared. His words were almost astonishing. Help the Lu family to clear away the suspicion. Because people in the God realm can doubt the Lu family, but they will never doubt this person. This person is none other than someone else. In the God realm, except for the old city lord of Hanging City, the person with the highest ranking on the list of immortal kings is God Emperor Bu. He is ranked 26th on the list of immortal kings. He even participated in the Battle of the Underworld back then. In that battle, he made great achievements in battle. Emperor Bu. These four words completely shocked the world. To a certain extent, his reputation was more terrifying than the old city lord of Hanging City. After all, not long ago, the old city lord of Hanging City was still in seclusion. In such a state, his only achievement was during the Underworld War, when he killed 5 immortal kings in a row. This kind of achievement could be said to shock the world at the time. But as time has passed, the reputation of the old city lord of Xiankong City has declined. And Bu God the Emperor has always been at the top of his game. With his order, most of the God realm will probably obey. In the entire God realm, the only ones who can compete with him are probably the Lu family and a few other forces. At this moment, the immortal kings standing behind Emperor Bu are all his subordinates. From this point, it is enough to see his background. I never thought that you would come too. King Ying looked at God Emperor Bu, his eyes a little solemn. This person is not weaker than him. Judging from the immortal king list, his ranking is higher than him. It is very possible. This person has some unknown trump cards. For a moment, he felt a little wary. He thought to himself that if there was no Emperor Bu, even if he could not defeat Lu Qinghong and Feng Zhu alone, no one could stop him if he wanted to leave. But with the addition of God Emperor Bu, then everything is different. God Emperor Bu alone may be stronger than him, let alone Lu Qinghong and Feng Zhu. Why can't I come? God Emperor Bu clenched his 5 fingers, and the void exploded. A golden spear appeared across the sky. The spear was slender, blooming with dazzling golden brilliance, and penetrated the world. A domineering power swept across all directions. There was a battle in the past with no winner or loser. Should we end it today? King Ying frowned. If there was no immortal king list, he would definitely take action. But with the immortal king list, he hesitated in his heart. He knew that the ranking was lower than others, but he still stepped forward. Except for people like Qinglong King with temptations, except. I'm afraid the others are not all fools. For example, Lu Qinghong did not take the initiative to fight with him after he came forward. Because at this stage, they have a very clear understanding of their own strength. They are not completely sure and will not take action without authorization. Take action. Not to mention, the opportunity for the quasi-immortal emperor has not yet been born. Unless his brain is kicked by a donkey, he will spend a lot of energy at this time to deal with someone he knows he can't beat. How? Don't dare. Seeing King Ying's hesitation, Bu God Emperor stood up with a gun, the tip of the gun tilted towards the sky, and sneered. You don't have to be too anxious. Sooner or later there will be a battle between you and me. The ranking on the immortal king list can only be used as a reference and has little meaning. King Ying said in a deep voice. Ah! God Emperor Bu sneered. No one knows better than him whether the immortal king list is true or false. In any case, he has also seen the master of Tianji with his own eyes, and even stepped into the tower of Tianji, and deeply understands the horror of Master Tianji. Apart from anything else, it is the method that can make all the cultivation of a person disappear in a single thought. Even the quasi-immortal emperor cannot do it. A quasi-immortal emperor can easily crush an immortal king to death. But it is absolutely impossible to make the cultivation of an immortal king disappear. This is no longer something that can be explained by magical powers. This must at least be the embodiment of some kind of rules, just like the Lord of God, who dominates everything, and all things are born in one thought, and all things are destroyed. Maybe. Only the immortal emperor can do this. Of course. This is God Emperor Bu's own guess. I'm looking forward to that battle. Snort. King Ying snorted coldly, then turned around and strode away. After a step or two, he came to another void. Here, there are still more than 10 immortal kings from the demon world. Each one has a majestic aura. Compared with the one on the opposite side, the immortal king of the god realm has formed a vaguely antagonistic situation. At this time, the quasi-immortal emperor has not yet been born. If he is not completely sure, no one would want to take action. Only a being like God Emperor Bia can take action without restraint. After all, his strength is very high, and there are only a few people who are stronger than him. As long as he does not match these people, God Emperor Bia can be said to be invincible in all realms. How is it going? As soon as King Ying came back, there was the immortal king from the heavenly demon realm next to him. He came over and asked, "Among all the heavens and worlds, fully half of the immortal kings who have arrived are those from the god realm and the heavenly demon realm who are facing us head on. But I sensed that the immortal king of the immortal world was also here." King Ying said indifferently. "It seems that the situation is not optimistic." A creature less than 6 feet tall frowned tightly and said in a deep voice, "We in the demon realm are as strong as we are strong, but it is difficult to deal with just one god realm. How can we resist the alliance of 10,000 realms?" "That's right." The creature who was less than 6 feet tall had just finished speaking when the six-winged immortal king continued, "I heard the news that the owner of the Tianji Tower in the Tianji Tower once said that all the beings on the immortal king list are still there, alive. However, Lu Wuodao and others on our side have not been found yet. On the other hand, the powerful people on the other side's immortal king list have jumped out one after another. The situation is already very unfavorable to us. At the beginning, I heard that when Lu Wuodao and others were still alive, it was impossible for all the immortal kings in the demon world to say they were unhappy. But the Clinker said, it's time now, and the quasi-immortal emperor has a chance. It is estimated that he is about to be born. But there is still no trace of Lu Wuodao and others. This is a bit troublesome. They have never been to Tianji Tower, but they don't know the attitude of the owner of Tianji Tower. This does not prevent them from understanding that the owner of Tianji Tower is a powerful quasi-immortal emperor. What if the domain lord on his side takes action and is blocked by the master of Tianji? The demon world will be destroyed that day. If it really doesn't work, let the territory lord take action now and kill all the immortal kings in all the worlds. Someone suggested. As soon as these words came out, murderous intent suddenly boiled in the entire chaos, making the void tremble. Are you crazy? King Ying frowned. The immortal king is not just a cat or a dog. You can kill him if you want. Many of the immortal kings who came here today were those who survived the war in the underworld. At that time, even the immortal emperor appeared. But they still survived. Now, there is only one quasi-immortal emperor in the demon world. How can it be possible to keep all the immortal kings? It's not good. Instead, they will steal the chicken but lose the rice. The territory lord has a more detailed plan. Please don't act rashly for the time being, lest it disrupt the territory lord's plan. King Ying said in a deep voice. Planning. The six-winged immortal king had a trace of displeasure on his face and said in a deep voice, do you still want to hide the affairs of the territory lord from us? Just a chance for a quasi-immortal emperor. What else does the domain master need to plan? These words represent the thoughts of many immortal kings of the heavenly demon realm. No matter how you say it, the territory lord is a quasi-immortal emperor. This is an indisputable fact. It can be said that this opportunity is different from that of the Senluo Ghost Territory Lord. It's a dime-a-dozen relationship. He just needs to stand on the side of the heavenly demon realm and help other immortal kings to seize this opportunity. A quasi-immortal emperor comes forward, who can compete with him? Even Zhou Qile, who is number 1 on the immortal king list now, I'm afraid he may not be the opponent of the domain master, right? It can be said that the opportunity of the quasi-immortal emperor is already in the eyes of many immortal kings in the demon world. By then, the demon world will have another quasi-immortal emperor. It is estimated that even if the owner of Tianji Tower stands on the side of all heavens and all realms, it will not help at all. When the time comes, you will know. King Ying glanced at the many immortal kings beside him, chuckled, and said slowly, "You only need to know one thing, and that is enough." "What?" the six-winged immortal king asked. "Soon the underworld will once again rule over the heavens," King Ying said confidently. Six-winged immortal king. He really wanted to say, when will the underworld rule over the heavens? When it was at its most powerful, it only occupied half of the world in the universe. There was still a long way to go before it could rule the universe. Of course. He just said this in his mind, and he would never dare to say it out loud. Even if he was arrogant, he did not dare to be too tough on King Ying. He was a strong person on the immortal king list, but he was not even ranked. You can understand it if you look at the miserable end of the previous Azure Dragon King. The six-winged immortal king thought to himself that if he faced off against the king of Ying, his outcome would probably not be much better than that of the Azure Dragon King. Fantasy, me. Create a secret building at the beginning. Author, Mavericks Flying. Chapter 646. In chaos. Two more figures arrived, clad in stars and moonlight. These two people were none other than the Taoist master of the ancient immortal wind path and the immortal King Xuanyan. After coming here, the two of them obviously didn't want to attract the attention of the people around them, so they all hid their aura immediately. However, Zhao Junhan glanced around and let out a light sigh. Subsequently, he chuckled again. "I originally thought that we were the first to arrive, but I never thought that the place was already packed with people. From the surface, there is nothingness in the chaos, only the mist is rolling, and it seems to be no different from usual. But after the spiritual consciousness spreads out, it is suddenly discovered that there are immortal kings in almost every corner. These people, or whether they are alone or in groups, they are all watching indifferently. There are real energy fluctuations. Xuanyan immortal king's entire body is ice blue, like a piece of 10,000-year-old ice. Even if he has restrained all his aura, there is still a terrifying cold air that escapes. It freezes the void." His eyes opened and closed, scanning everyone around him. A space, after careful sensing, he said in a deep voice, "Before we arrived, it seemed that someone had already fought." "Oh." The Taoist master of the immortal wind ancient path, Zhao Junhan, glanced at Xuanyan immortal king in surprise, and said in his heart, as expected of a person on the immortal king list, "He has not sensed anything yet, but the other party has already noticed it." Immediately, he asked fellow Taoist, "Maybe you can see who is fighting?" "There are three parties in total. One party should be the Lu clan, the other party is the Dragon clan of the heavenly demon realm, and the last party, it's the demon world." A dignified meaning flashed in Xuanyan immortal king's eyes. He looked at the two directions of the chaos. At this point in time, only two groups of people did not hide their auras, let alone their figures. They just stood carelessly in the chaos. They were the God realm and the heavenly demon realm. In the God realm, the God Emperor Biu was headed, while the heavenly demon realm was headed by King Ying. It can be seen that these two huge almost everyone in the world has united. Even Fengzhu and Qinglong king of the heavenly demon realm are on the side of the God realm. This has greatly enhanced the overall strength of the God realm. From the surface, it is much stronger than the heavenly demon realm. The Lu family. Zhao Junhan pondered for a moment and murmured as expected, "It should be Lu Qinghong. Their second ancestor seems to be no match for King Ying. The Dragon clan must be King Qinglong. In the demon realm, apart from King Ying, there is no second choice." Although Zhao Junhan and Zhao Junhan were not present just now. But based on the clues, it is not difficult to guess who did it. "It seems that we arrived a little late and missed a good show," Xuanyan Immortal King nodded slightly. It should just be a test. Zhao Junhan looked around and said in a deep voice, there are 100 Immortal Kings on the Immortal King list. Now there are less than 2 hands showing up. They are all probably waiting to see what happens. As long as Lu Qinghong and others are not stupid, they will not choose to take action at this time. What to say? Zhao Junhan's eyes flashed and he asked softly, friend Xuanyan, can you sense the aura of the top 10 beings on the Immortal King list? Hearing this sentence, Immortal King Xuanyan was stunned for a moment, then shook his head. He said helplessly, don't say the top 10, even the top 30. If these people want to hide, I can't find them. Maybe those people had arrived a long time ago, maybe they looked down on this opportunity. Others may need external help to become quasi-immortal emperors. But Zhou Qi, who is number 1 on the Immortal King list, and Lu Wuodao, who is second, do such people really need the opportunity to be quasi-immortal emperors? Not necessarily. Lu Wuodao is here hundreds of millions of years ago, he had the strength to fight against the quasi-immortal emperor. Zhou Qi, who is ranked first, is probably even more terrifying. Such people are probably all arrogant. Even if they want to become the quasi-immortal emperor, rely on your own foundation instead of relying on external forces. If so, this is also a beautiful thing. Zhao Junhan was a little surprised, and then a little disappointed. If he had known this, he would have asked the owner of Tianji Tower when he was in Tianji Tower. With the affirmative answer from the owner of Tianji Tower. Why should he and others be so worried? What if others, Lu Wuodao and others, didn't come at all? Didn't he worry in vain? Someone else is coming. Xuanyan Immortal King was slightly aware of it. He raised his head and looked towards a hidden place. Oh! Zhao Junhan frowned slightly. He followed Xuanyan Immortal King's gaze and saw only 2 figures, flashing away in the depths of chaos. One of them was much stronger than him. He could not identify his identity. But the other person, but it's not difficult to recognize. If it's not Lu Qingyu of the Lu clan, who else could it be? They didn't come very slowly. The Taoist master of the Xianfeng ancient road said with a chuckle. Since one of them is Lu Qingyu, no matter how well the other one is hidden, it will not help at all. Besides the master of Tianmang Mountain, who else can he be? Now that they are here, it is estimated that the 3 kings of the Lu family will be here soon. Xuanyan Immortal King said softly. As soon as he finished speaking, 3 more figures flew over. Unlike Lu Qingyu and the other 2, these 3 people did not hide their figures, but walked directly towards the God realm. Seeing God, the strength of one side of the world has increased again, and Zhao Junhan is a little moved. You know, he is also a member of the God realm. If he walks over at this time, can he join them directly? With such a group of immortal kings gathered together, who else dares to provoke them? Do you want to be with them? Immortal. King Xuanyan's voice was indifferent. After glancing at Zhao Junhan, he seemed to have seen through his inner thoughts and said calmly, don't say I didn't remind you. The current God realm seems to be powerful, but in fact it is full of hidden dangers. There is only one chance for a quasi-immortal emperor, but they have more than one person who can become a quasi-immortal emperor. Not to mention the distance, God Emperor Biu, Fengzhu, and Lu Qinghong alone are not easy people. If you join the past, you can only be a foil. This. Zhao Junhan was speechless. His strength is not considered weak among the immortal kings, but it is limited to this. It is impossible to say that he is strong. There are many people who are stronger than him. He estimated. At most, his strength is about the same as that of the 7th ancestor and others of the Lu clan, maybe even slightly inferior, so he rashly joined the God realm. It's indeed possible that you can't even drink the soup. Fellow Taoist reminds me. The Taoist master of the immortal wind ancient path bowed his hand to Xuanyan Immortal King. At this moment, he had mixed feelings in his heart. Will he definitely become a quasi-immortal emperor if he follows Swanyan immortal king? I'm afraid not. The opponent's strength is also the same after all. For a famous strong man on the immortal king list, I might be able to help him if he is so powerful. When the other person becomes a quasi-immortal emperor, I might be able to look after the ancient path of the immortal wind more. I don't know how long it will take for this quasi-immortal emperor to be born. Zhao Junhan thought in his mind. The other side. The lord of Tianmang Mountain took Lu Qingyu, and after leaving a large circle in the chaos, they finally came to the heavenly demon realm. Countless years ago. The two sides are allies. When we meet again today, it is inevitable to help each other in offense and defense. After all, there are too many strong people here. The lord of Tianmang Mountain and Lu Qingyu asked themselves that they could not seize the opportunity to be the quasi-immortal emperor under the siege of many powerful men. Only by joining the demon realm would they have a chance. Fellow Taoist King Ying, I haven't seen you for many years, but you still have the same style. It's still far away. The voice of the Lord of Tianmang Mountain has already floated over. After hearing the words, King Ying turned around, glanced at the Lord of Tianmang Mountain, a smile appeared on his face, and he also cupped his hands and said, in the past after the battle, I never imagined that we would still see each other again. Although the current Lord of Tianmang Mountain is not ranked high, only ranked at the bottom. But King Ying knows in his heart that the talent of the other party is not inferior to his. If he had not been sealed, the ranking of the two might be different. As if even the Lord of Tianmang Mountain may be ranked higher than me, maybe. Yes. I never thought of it either. The Lord of Tianmang Mountain and Lu Qingyu came closer. He stretched out his hand and introduced, I would like to introduce you to fellow Taoists. This person is Lu Qingyu from the Lu clan in the God realm. Not long ago, he joined the underworld. Lu Qingyu met Senior Ying Wang. Although Lu Qingyu is arrogant, he still doesn't dare to rely on someone like King Ying. Because he also knows how Lu Jingtian died back then. Seeing King Ying now, he feels, it can't be called hatred, but it is a bit complicated. Who would have thought that one day, he would treat the enemies of the Lu family with the courtesy of a junior? No need to be polite. King Ying took a deep look at Lu Qingyu, then glanced in the direction of his eyes, with a hint of ridicule between his eyebrows. This scene. It made many Lu clan members angry. They, the God realm and the demon realm, were all standing carelessly in the chaos. There is nothing to hide from each other. Therefore, the Lord of Tianmang Mountain took Lu Qingyu there and was exposed to everyone's eyes. Naturally, the scene of Lu Qingyu bowing to King Ying was also visible to everyone. What's this? Is this a shame? The dignified Lu clan actually had an immortal king who joined the underworld. Not only that, he also treated the Lu clan's great enemy with the courtesy of a junior. This is the chance that the quasi-immortal emperor will be born. Otherwise, the current 7th Patriarch, 2nd Patriarch, and others may have already taken action at the first opportunity. The two ancestors calmed down. Lu Qinghong stood in front of the 7th and 2nd ancestors and said quickly. Although he also wanted to kill Lu Qingyu, it was obviously not the best opportunity at this time. He said quickly, when the opportunity for the quasi-immortal emperor opens, this junior will definitely take action yourself and clean up the door. The second ancestor suppressed the anger in his heart. He snorted coldly in the direction of Lu Qingyu, then nodded and said, I'll leave this matter to you. He knows that his strength, although it is better than Lu Qingyu, can't kill the opponent in a short time. Once time goes by, anything can happen. Only Lu Qinghong can kill Lu Qingyu quickly. Yes. Lu Qinghong quickly handed over his hands and said quickly, Junior must live up to his mission. Have you seen the God realm? Ying dynasty pointed in the direction of the God realm and wrote lightly, they are thinking about how to kill you. Lu Qingyu felt a chill in his heart when he heard this. He was once a member of the Lu clan and was very aware of the power of the Lu clan. The Lu clan was not only terrifying in terms of its own strength, but also had good relations with the Emperor Bu. I guess. See the Emperor Bu. If he was killed, he would attack without mercy. In one fell swoop, he had provoked two powerful men who were at the top of the list of immortal kings. He was a mere immortal king who was not on the list, but he had no confidence to survive. Senior. Lu Qingyu was very anxious. He hasn't become a quasi-immortal emperor yet, and he doesn't want to die like this. The only one who can protect him right now is the forces from the demon realm. Rest assured. King Ying smiled and patted Lu Qingyu's shoulder, and said gently, since you have joined the underworld, you are a friend of the demon world. No one will hurt you as long as I am here. Thank you, Senior. Lu Qingyu was immediately overjoyed. With King Ying's words, he breathed a sigh of relief. Others didn't know, but he knew clearly that behind King Ying there was also the Lord of the Senluo Ghost Domain, who was a quasi-immortal emperor. He was considered a quasi-immortal emperor. The only quasi-immortal emperor in all the worlds. Senior TNG poster does not count. This senior has no regard for the secular world. No matter how high his cultivation level is, he cannot actually affect them. Why didn't you see the domain lord? The lord of Tianmang Mountain looked around and asked curiously. He is still in the demon world and has not come here. King Ying responded. I see. The lord of Tianmang Mountain nodded, and then sent a message to ask fellow Taoist, can you tell me who the senior leader was during the war in the past? This. King Ying was speechless, shook his head slightly, and responded, to be honest, I don't know very well, not to mention all the worlds, even in the world of demons, no one knew about the identity of the Lord of the Senluo Ghost territory. What it really looks like. Not to mention, knowing who he was before. All right. The Lord of Tianmang Mountain sighed helplessly, and then sent a message again to ask, can the Taoist friend reveal something about the plan of the territory lord? Fellow Taoist, don't worry, I will never spread the word. Clinker. After King Ying heard this, he was surprised and said, how do you know that the territory lord has a plan? You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Fantasy, me. Create a secret building at the beginning. Author, Mavericks Flying. Chapter 647. The Lord of the Senluo Ghost territory began planning hundreds of millions of years ago. However, apart from the Lord of the Senluo Ghost territory, the only one who knows about this is King Ying. King Ying just told the immortal king of the demon realm a little bit about it. But what happened to the Lord of Tianmang Mountain and others? Didn't he just come? How could he know the plan of the Lord of the Senluo Ghost territory? Is it possible? Plans leaked? Did the owner of TNG tell you? King Ying seemed to have thought of something, his heart trembled, and he asked in a deep voice. If not, the face of the Lord of Tianmang Mountain is a little strange. When did this happen? Does King Ying still think that there is something in this world that the master of TNG doesn't know? The quasi-immortal emperor has already calculated his chances. Can the plans of the Lord of Luo Ghost territory still be difficult for the owner of TNG Tower? This means that he and others do not have enough resources. If there are enough, the Lord of Tianmang Mountain can directly obtain all the plans of the Lord of Senluo Ghost territory from TNG Tower. Okay, it's quite exciting to think about plotting against a quasi-immortal emperor. How can this be? King Ying froze, with a look of disbelief in his eyes, and murmured, how did he calculate it? Senior Master TNG knows everything. There is almost nothing in the world that can be hidden from him. As long as he can pay the price, he can even calculate the whereabouts of the God Emperor. The Lord of Tianmang Mountain talked eloquently. In his words, he highly praised the master of TNG. This was not hearsay, but he had seen the horror of Master Tianji with his own eyes, so he had such a deep understanding. What? Can even the God Emperor count? King Ying is a little confused. What follows is endless fear. He can even calculate the whereabouts of the God Emperor. Does the Master of the Senluo Ghost Territory already know everything about the plan of the Lord of the Ghost Realm? Although it is clear to all, the Lord of Tianmang Mountain has too few resources and cannot afford to pay the price for many things. But what about other forces in the world? There are always some forces with strong foundations that can afford the price. For example, the Lu family clan, or the Emperor Biu, or the supreme forces in the immortal world. If they know the plan of the Domain Lord, there is no guarantee that there will be no complications. After all, they are not the opponent of a quasi-immortal emperor, but they want to destroy the quasi-immortal emperor. The immortal emperor's plan. But it's not that difficult either. What's wrong? The Lord of Tianmang Mountain also noticed that something was wrong and asked. At present, it seems that I underestimated the threat of Tianji Lozhu. King Ying said solemnly. Fellow Taoist, don't be impulsive. The Lord of Tianmang Mountain hurriedly persuaded. He was very worried. King Ying was going to confront Tianji Tower as soon as his brain twitched. You must know that the owner of Tianji Tower might also be a quasi-immortal emperor. Originally, everyone planned to just sit back and watch. But because of King Ying's provocation, the master of Tianji was angered, and it was out of control. A quasi-immortal emperor joined the battlefield, and no one could afford the consequences. Don't look at the master of Tianji, who is currently showing yes, he only has the ability to deduce Tianji, but if you think about it from another perspective, he knows everything. Over the past countless years, how many resources have he pulled into his own hands? No one can tell this. Maybe the resources in the hands of the owner of Tianji, beyond the imagination of countless people. At the very least. Just this time when the quasi-immortal emperor was born, the owner of Tianji Hall made a lot of money, which can be said to be extremely rich. After all, countless forces in the world have gone after passing the Tianji Tower, everyone only needs to give the owner of the Tianji Tower an immortal king-level item, and the immortal king-level items in the hands of the Tianji Tower will become cabbage. Rest assured. King Ying took a deep breath and said slowly, I understand in my heart. But there are some things that you have to be careful about. Said. A jade slip appeared in his hand, and some contents were passed into it, and he quickly forwarded it to the Lord of the Senluo Ghost Territory. Since the Territory Lord's plan may be known, then the Territory Lord must change it in advance, otherwise, there may be big changes in the future. The Lord of Tianmang Mountain was standing by. Looking at this scene, he opened his mouth and wanted to say everything in front of him. Maybe the owner of Tianji Tower has already figured it out. Including, you the news just delivered. But he did not say these words. After all, no one can guarantee whether his previous words were part of the calculation of the master of Tianji. More than 10 days later. Tianyuan World. Dawang City, inside the Tianji Tower. Li Yun once again sent away the two immortal kings, and looked down at the system panel in front of him. In just 10 days, his secret points had reached a terrifying level. I don't know how many immortal king level things were converted into secret points by him. It should be almost done. Li Yun murmured. Those who should come have already come. Those who shouldn't come, such as the people from the demon realm, even if their reputation is 100 times more famous, others will not come. After all, behind them, there is also a quasi-immortal emperor. The character thinks that in the face of absolute strength, any plan is just a cloud, so why would he come to Tianji Tower to inquire about information? I hope the immortal emperor's strength will not disappoint me. Li Yun thought in his mind. As soon as this thought came to his mind, he said in his heart system, Help me increase my strength to the peak of Immortal Emperor. Isn't it just for this moment that I gave you the opportunity to become the quasi-immortal emperor? Buzz. A terrifying aura erupted from Li Yun's body. The aura was rising steadily, almost endlessly. His body was extremely gorgeous, as if an eternal and supreme emperor of heaven had woken up. The entire Tianji building was filled with the supreme aura. At this time, if someone steps in, they will probably be shocked to pieces immediately. Fortunately, before Li Yun broke through the cultivation level, he sealed the Tianji tower so that outsiders could not step inside. Boom! In his body, a deafening sound erupted. The meridian seemed like the Yangtze River was rushing endlessly, and the blood was extremely rich. Every drop of essence and blood could collapse a world. Every wisp of breath could penetrate the universe. Throughout the ages, in the long river of time, there are no traces of his years, as if everything has been erased, but he truly exists in this world. As if he has jumped out of the three realms, no longer invisible, looking down at the changes in the world. Sit back and watch the past, present, and future. The world is decaying, but I am immortal. I don't know how long has passed. It seems like a moment, and it seems like hundreds of millions of years have passed. Li Yun stood in the Tianji Tower, cleansed the mortal world, and completely transformed into an immortal. His brilliance circulates, his immortal energy is dense, and he possesses immeasurable fighting power. His physical body is flawless, his soul is immortal, and his magic power is endless. In these years when he was unable to become a quasi-immortal emperor, he took a step forward and became an immortal emperor. Daokyo. Buzz. Suddenly, Li Yun opened his eyes, and the brilliance shot out penetrated the endless universe. The two beams of light were more fascinating than the fairy sword. They were too sharp. They directly shattered the barrier he had left before and passed through the universe. Lu came to the 10,000 realms, shattered the boundless chaos, and every strong person. At this moment, they couldn't help but feel emotional. Especially in the west of the demon realm. There are too many immortal king-level figures here, and everyone can see it. When I saw that gleam in my eyes, I couldn't help but feel endless fear in my heart. That is, a glint in the eye. Lu Qinghong looked at the chaotic scene in the sky, which was completely divided into two. He was shocked and murmured, "Who is this, the Lord of Senluo Ghost Territory?" Not the Lord of Senluo Ghost Territory. Beside Lu Qinghong, God Emperor Biu looked solemn, and he said in a deep voice, "The owner of this aura seems to have surpassed the quasi-immortal emperor and has reached the pinnacle of the cultivation world. In ancient times, he participated in the underworld war. He could still distinguish the difference between the quasi-immortal emperor and the immortal emperor. The difference between the two can be said to be clouds and mud. The quasi-immortal emperor would only make him feel powerful, but the immortal emperor it will make him feel small, powerless, and unable to compete." The gleam in his eyes just now was like a sudden moment, but the grace of that moment was completely fixed in everyone's hearts. Immortal Emperor. Lu Qinghong felt his mouth was dry. There are already very few quasi-immortal emperors, but who would have thought that at this time today, another immortal emperor would pop up? Could it be that? Is there a supreme figure who wants to compete with them for the opportunity to be the quasi-immortal emperor? This is too ridiculous. How could the immortal emperor take a fancy to such a thing? D. On the side of the heavenly demon realm, many people looked up at the sky, with expressions of shock and uncertainty. It can't be the God Emperor. King Ying shook his head. He had seen the aura of the God Emperor before, which was completely different from just now. More importantly, he heard the Lord of the Senluo Ghost Territory mention it accidentally. It is impossible for the God Emperor to come back. Since it is impossible to come back, then the glint in his eyes just now showed that it was definitely not the God Emperor. It was another immortal emperor. Could it be that there is an unknown immortal emperor among the heavens and worlds, who has been hiding in the dark and has never appeared? Could it be the owner of Tianji? The lord of Tianmang Mountain and Lu Qingyu looked at each other, and this idea appeared in their minds at the same time. But after this idea appeared, it was rejected by the two of them. This is a bit unbelievable. The senior Tianji building master is a quasi-immortal. The emperor is enough to shock the world. If he were an immortal emperor, wouldn't it be even more terrifying? An immortal emperor will not show up for no reason, let alone take action for no reason. The gleam in his eyes just now may be a warning. The lord of Tianmang Mountain said in a deep voice. Judging from the current situation, the opportunity of this unborn quasi-immortal emperor may be very extraordinary. The senior master of Tianji Tower only asked for such a high price, and now there is a mysterious and unpredictable immortal emperor. Come forward, which casts a mysterious veil on the opportunity of the quasi-immortal emperor. It is very likely that this quasi-immortal emperor opportunity will involve events that happened hundreds of millions of years ago. No more guessing. Lu Qingyu glanced at other places and said softly, others are probably as confused as us now. This immortal emperor, who is missing from the ancient books, may be an old monster who cannot bear the loneliness and wants to come back to the world. Whether he appears or not is of little significance to us. Our top priority is to wait for the opportunity for the quasi-immortal emperor to be born. Fellow Taoist Qingyu, you are right. Qingying gave Lu Qingyu a thoughtful look and said again, a long time has passed, and I don't know when the quasi-immortal emperor chance will be born. It should be these days. The lord of Tianmang Mountain recalled the conversation in Tianji Tower and said. Another half-month has passed. At a time when many people are confused. A fairy sword shot out from the depths of chaos. Wherever the sword light passed, chaos boiled, and then the waves surged, and the entire chaos was cut into pieces. Buzz. Like a hanging Milky Way, it spreads out on the sky. Every breath makes people feel anxious and uneasy. They don't know where this fairy sword is flying from and where it will fall. Gudong. The lord of Tianmang Mountain swallowed his saliva and murmured, the immortal emperor has taken action again. What will he do this time? Bang. The sword light fell, like mercury pouring down the ground. It hit the void not far away, and the heaven and earth exploded. The universe was completely torn apart, and terrifying fluctuations rushed in all directions. Wisps of sword light broke through everything, block it and completely destroy the chaos. It is just a fairy sword. It is still condensed from the true essence. It has no entity, but it has suppressed the world and has penetrated the past, present, and future. No one dares to ignore it. Click. The moment the sword edge landed, a crisp sound of shattering came, affecting the hearts of countless people. Under the light of the sword, chaos shattered, like a mirror, quickly filled with endless cracks. It spreads over hundreds of millions of miles, and is simply endless. Through the cracks, you can vaguely see that on the other side of the chaos is an extremely majestic and vast world. There are almost no boundaries. This is. The lord of Tianmang Mountain felt that his breathing was about to stop. He said in a deep voice, a complete world. He could not imagine that before this, there was an extremely powerful world that was used by people to defy the will of heaven. Sealed in this chaos. And it's not far from the demon realm. Who did this? The lord of the underworld or the god emperor? Or, the mysterious immortal emperor who took action today? Countless people thought to themselves that they were the only three people who could achieve this step. Other than that, no one else could achieve this step. Fantasy, me. Create a secret building at the beginning. Author, Mavericks Flying. Chapter 648. The sword shines like a rainbow. It illuminated all the worlds, shattered the ancient seal, and made a lost world reappear in front of countless people. It was a world plunged into darkness. All the light that enters it is swallowed up, and it is extremely silent. It is as if there is no living thing in this world, it is lonely, cold, and void. Countless immortal kings condense the world in front of them, trying to see through the scene. But it's a pity. Even the most powerful immortal king can only see the tip of the iceberg and cannot see the whole picture. It seems that in that world, there is an invisible barrier that prevents spiritual consciousness from prying into it. Even the immortal king cannot see the whole picture. More importantly, this world is different from other worlds. It seems the rules are different. Extremely unusual. What happened? At this moment, the seventh ancestor and the second ancestor of the Lu clan suddenly felt a splitting headache when they saw the world in front of them. There seemed to be something in the depths of their minds trying to come out. But then they were struck by an unknown force. The power was suppressed forcefully. Why? This world feels so familiar to me, but I have no impression of it at all. The seventh ancestor and the second ancestor looked at each other, and at the same time, they saw a look of horror in each other's eyes. Beside them, Fengzhu and the Emperor Biu also had ugly expressions. They also sensed that something was wrong. This world, they checked all the memories in their minds, and they didn't have any impression, but it happened to be extremely familiar. Could it be that they had been to this world? But why didn't they remember it at all? At this time, not only them, almost everyone who participated in the underworld war in the past had very ugly faces, but their expressions could still remain normal during the scene. I am afraid that only the immortal king, who was born after the underworld war, could still remain calm. I forgot something. The Lord of Tianmang Mountain spoke. There was deep confusion in his eyes. He was also a little familiar with the world in front of him. It seemed that he had fought here. But who his opponent was and how he fought was a bit unclear. Can't remember either. No way. Beside, Lu Qingyu was speechless. An immortal king is almost at the top of the world. His memory is not easy to change. At least it is difficult for a quasi-immortal emperor to do so. But if it were the owner of Tianji, a quasi-immortal emperor like that, it might still be possible. But the key is Master Tianji really a quasi-immortal emperor? If you want to change the memory of an immortal king, the immortal king will not notice it, unless an immortal emperor takes action. But what is the purpose of an immortal emperor doing this? It's just thankless. Really? King Ying took a deep breath. He was the same. It seemed that someone had sealed him deep in his mind, but his condition was much better than others. Mainly because the Lord of Senluo Ghost territory once mentioned it to him. He has experienced some things in this area. Therefore, he was prepared the moment this world appeared. Sure enough what? The Lord of Tianmang Mountain suddenly raised his head, his eyes were full of bloodshot eyes, and the aura on his body was extremely violent, like a crazy ancient wild beast. Anyone who knew that someone had tampered with his mind would probably not, too calm. What's more, an arrogant person like the Lord of Tianmang Mountain. At this moment, when he heard King Ying say the word Quarren, he immediately wondered if he was the Lord of the Senluo Ghost territory. What he did to himself. After all, the Lord of the Senluo Ghost territory is too mysterious. No one has seen his true face, and no one knows what methods he has. Maybe he can modify a person's identity without anyone knowing. What about memory? Nothing. King Ying had no intention of explaining. He glanced at the world that was gradually revealed in the chaos, and said softly, I guess you will understand everything after a while. Understand everything. The Lord of Tianmang Mountain's eyes were deep and cold, and at this moment, a sense of powerlessness emerged in his heart. I have a bad premonition. The fairy world is on one side. Dozens of fairy kings here are standing together. The gods have begun to join forces to keep warm. The fairy world is even stronger than the gods. There is no reason not to stand together. At this moment, Many immortal kings in the immortal world looked at the crackling void in front of them, with thoughtful expressions on their faces. Especially the immortal king who had participated in the battle in the underworld had the most solemn expression. I have been to Tianji Tower, and I learned from the owner of Tianji Tower that all the people on the immortal king list are still alive, and no one has died. Do you think Lu Wuodao and others will? A creature wearing armor and holding a big halberd stood in the void. His whole body was wrapped in armor, with only a pair of cold eyes leaking out. After glancing in the direction of the demon realm, he continued, could it be that Lu Wuodao and others are hiding in this world? At this time, most of the immortal kings on the immortal king list have already arrived. Only the top 20 immortal kings are still missing, especially the immortal kings on the list from the underworld, whether they are Lu Wuodao, Yan Yuan, or Tianji. None of them showed up. This has to make people doubt that Lu Wuodao and others are in the world in front of them. This possibility cannot be ruled out. An old man spoke slowly. He wore a wide robe and long sleeves, a Confucian crown on his head, and a thin face. His whole person exuded an aura that was far from the world, as if he were an ancient immortal who had walked out of the long river of time. He was also a strong man on the list of immortal kings. He once survived the battle in the underworld. However, deep down in his heart at this moment, he felt a sense of intimacy towards the world in front of him. It is as if I was born on this land. But the strange thing is that deep down in his heart, he has no impression at all. Although this world, for some unknown reason, has been completely blocked by people with great supernatural powers, judging from the current tip of the iceberg. I'm afraid this world is not weaker than the fairy world. The old man frowned and murmured, if there really is such a world in the world, even if it is sealed, there should be some records handed down. The question is, so many of us, why don't we have any impression at all? Have our memories really been modified? Someone said with an ugly face. This is the thing they least want to believe. Because, if this thing is true, then they can no longer believe everything in their minds, because they don't know which thing is what I have experienced was deliberately modified by someone. Maybe my current personality is not the same as before. If this is the case, is I still myself now? Impossible. The old man shook his head, categorically denied it, and said in a deep voice, that's enough for one or two immortal kings. It's impossible for someone to change the memories of all the immortal kings at the same time. I have just observed that the immortal king in the heavenly demon realm seems to have encountered the same confusion as us. Then why is everything happening today? An immortal king murmured. Back then, the underworld was defeated and the God Emperor survived. Among all the heavens and worlds, it was estimated that only the God Emperor could do something unknowingly, but what was his purpose in doing so? Countless questions come to mind. Even the old man, who is on the list of immortal kings, cannot answer it for a while. If the memory has really been modified, is the return of the God Emperor that I have always remembered in my mind really the return of the God Emperor? Has the underworld really been defeated again? After all, these are memories. Since they are memories, there is a possibility of being tampered with. If the God Emperor won, why did the underworld's strong men survive so many, and there was even a quasi-immortal emperor, but their winning side does not have a quasi-immortal emperor? What is even more exaggerated is that none of the powerful people in Shenting back then are seen today. Even if they are not on the list of immortal kings, this is too unreasonable. Although many people use the reason that the God Emperor took others to other worlds to comfort themselves, but this is a bit deceiving themselves. If the God Emperor wants to leave, other quasi-immortal emperors will definitely follow. You know, those who stood on one side of the world back then were not all subordinates of the God Emperor. The reason why they were united in everything and the alliance was of greater significance. The God Emperor could not forcefully order all the quasi-immortal emperors at once. Since it is not subordinate, here comes the problem. There should be one or two quasi-immortal emperors left. Where are those quasi-immortal emperors? Should we, that's it, in the underworld war, loser, right? An immortal king said with a pale face and a hoarse voice. While speaking, his aura became a little unstable. For so many years, once the things he believed to be true were ruthlessly shattered, no one could remain calm. Many people, everyone feels, he is just like a puppet. Believe what others say. Actually, as early as the moment when the immortal king list appeared, and when it was admitted by the owner of TNG that all the immortal kings on it were alive, some people had doubted this. But at that time, many people scorned it. But now, a strange yet familiar world appears. This bad idea took root and sprouted crazily deep in his heart. No matter how firm the Taoist heart of any immortal king was, he couldn't help but start to murmur at this time. Throughout the ages, they have never seen a situation where the winner is so miserable and the loser is so majestic. At this time, it is too late to go to TNG Tower. Maybe all the truth is hidden in this world until the moment when the restriction is completely broken. Let's go in together and find the truth of that year. The old man said in a deep voice. Good. Many immortal kings nodded heavily. Each of them was very eager to confirm whether their memory had been modified. Boom. The terrifying aura kept bursting out. The void in all directions was cracked, and a desolate and majestic aura swept across all directions. A lost world gradually appeared in front of countless people. It was a dark world. The world. The sky is black, the earth is black, there are broken walls and ruins everywhere, and there are even black rivers, rushing endlessly, with thousands of waves. Among the waves, there are broken corpses, looming. It's hard to imagine how many corpses are hidden in an endless river. Boom. The next moment, it was just revealed. In a small part of the world, it was like the sky was falling apart, ghosts were crying and gods were howling. The whole world seemed to be in the doomsday. The Black Order chain turned into a storm. It is better to say it is a hurricane than a law. All the chaos turned into a mess, with all kinds of order and avenue symbols intertwined together in a crazy and majestic way, tearing apart every inch of the world. It is hard to imagine that the world has fallen into such a desperate situation. Being in it. Not to mention practicing, even surviving is a problem. The way of heaven is chaotic, the rules are disordered, and the immortal king cannot understand the way of heaven and earth, so how can we go further? It's not good. There are still those who have fallen. Possible. Here, could it be that it was the center of the underworld war in the past? Someone said doubtfully. This world has obviously gone through a war, and everything has been shattered, including the way of heaven, turning this place into a dead place. But the problem is, in their memory, the fairy world is the final stage of the war. The center. In that battle, the immortal realm was almost destroyed. After the war, hundreds of millions of years passed before the immortal realm returned to its former glory with great difficulty. If the immortal realm is the central battlefield, then what is going on in this world? Is it possible? When many people didn't know it, a war broke out in this world, which led to the annihilation of the entire world. Some people didn't want this to spread. Therefore, the world was sealed with great supernatural powers. The seal is breaking. At this time, the old man in the fairy world stared straight ahead and said suddenly. As soon as he finished speaking. Bang! The sky and the earth exploded. The sword light suddenly fell and pierced the center of the world. The brilliant sword light swept in all directions and wiped away all the seals in an instant. The original seals disappeared quickly like ice and snow melting. One side was vast and vast. A huge world appeared in front of countless people. Without the seal, that world floated quietly in the chaos, as if it had existed for eternity, waiting for the return of everyone. In the chaos, Many immortal kings were stunned. After a moment, someone turned into fairy light without saying a word and rushed into the world crazily. Fantasy, me. Create a secret building at the beginning. Author, Mavericks Flying. Chapter 649. Walk. Let's go into. God Emperor Bio shouted softly. He took the lead and turned into a divine rainbow. It rumbled across the sky and rushed into the lost world with a huge aura. Behind him, several figures of the same immortal king, follow God Emperor Bio closely. These people are all subordinates of God Emperor Bio. They act together. Although they cannot conquer all the worlds, they can at least guarantee that they are safe. On the other side, the world of demons is not the young immortal king was also in action. Among them were Lu Qingyu and the Lord of Tianmang Mountain. They were very fast, almost arriving first, and entered that world ahead of many immortal kings. Further away, there is a group of strong men from the fairy world. The first people to rush into the world far away are those from the fairy world. Let's take action too. The seventh ancestor said in a deep voice. The second ancestor and Lu Qinghong beside him didn't say anything. They nodded silently and quickly rose into the sky. Streams of light flew out from all directions of the chaos, swaying out magnificent traces, like meteors gathering together and turning into a torrent. It poured into the side, the world that just appeared. Looking from a distance, it was extremely spectacular. Just the light blooming naturally illuminated the sky and the earth at this moment. The world was originally completely silent. There is a bit of life today. But it's still not enough. This world is too dark. It is not an exaggeration to call it a dark place. It is as dark as ink everywhere, with no end in sight, as if it is beyond the edge of the universe. It's here. Not a shred of life. There is no spiritual energy flowing, and the air is lifeless, like a country of death. The most frightening thing is that the laws here are disordered, the way of heaven is hidden, and the means of communicating the great avenues of heaven and earth that the immortal king was originally proud of have all failed here. This means that every immortal king has been weakened by 3 levels of strength out of thin air. Once you get started, you can only rely on your own foundation. It is no longer possible to pull the divine chain of the avenue to deal with the enemy. It's hard to imagine what kind of battle went on here. Lu Qinghong probed for his spiritual consciousness, but it could only cover a 3-foot radius. In desperation, he finally took his spiritual consciousness back again. In this world, no matter which immortal king, the spiritual consciousness has been suppressed. This is equivalent to the immortal king's combat power has been weakened by several levels out of thin air. Without divine consciousness covering the world, even if someone is attacking them from behind, they will not know it and can only rely on intuition to react quickly. Once they fail to react, they will face it's the result of being severely injured. Huh. Lu Qinghong let out a light sigh. He walked a few thousand steps. In front of him, an old man wearing a Taoist robe sat cross-legged on the ground. This man looked haggard. There was no sound at all. If Lu Qinghong hadn't observed carefully, he might not have been able to see this. An old man, because countless years have passed, this person has almost become one with this world. An ancient figure. Seeing this old man, the seventh patriarch sighed softly and murmured. He was very familiar with the clothes on the other man's body. They were the style before the underworld war. Nowadays, few people wear them like this. It can be expected. This old man has fallen for countless years. Only his strong strength has ensured that his body will not rot, and it has existed until now. But just like this, all the essence in his body has been lost. Next to him, Lu Qian took a step forward. He reached out and touched the old man's body. At the moment of contact, the old man's body was like a collapsed building block. It quickly disappeared into ashes and disappeared between heaven and earth. This person should be an immortal king. The second ancestor said in a deep voice. In this world, the rules are chaotic, the way of heaven is not revealed, and terrifying hurricanes blow by from time to time. Even the immortal king is in danger of falling. It can be said that this body has been preserved until now. It's not easy. If it weren't for the immortal king figure, I guess he wouldn't even be able to survive. Seeing the old man's body turned into smoke and dust, several immortal kings of the Lu family present felt a little sad. A powerful immortal king didn't even have a name. None of them stayed. They just disappeared between heaven and earth. If things don't go well today, will the same happen to me? Let's go to other places first. This world is very dangerous. Even the immortal king can't guarantee safety. It is estimated that only the quasi-immortal emperor can run rampant. The seventh ancestor suggested we, the Lu clan, should not be too far apart, lest we be unable to provide timely assistance and others take advantage of our loopholes. The Lu clan is strong. But it is not without enemies. For example, the heavenly demon realm is watching covetously. If they are targeted by the heavenly demon realm, they, the Lu clan, will probably not feel too good. Good. The others nodded. They were about to set off. Suddenly, not far away, immortal energy surged, and a figure like a god and demon appeared. A figure wearing armor and with overwhelming immortal power lay across the void. You dare! The man frowned coldly and shouted angrily. The blue-gold divine staff in his hand was shining brightly, suppressing the 8 wastelands of the universe. He smashed it down from the sky and split the entire void into 2. Countless stars appeared on the sky. Exploded. Under the staff of God. The earth collapsed, and the whole world seemed to explode. A figure in black robes at the center sneered and said, I accept your opportunity and say goodbye. As soon as he finished speaking, he turned into a line of blue smoke and disappeared between heaven and earth. How could the information I bought at Tianji Tower be taken away by you so easily? Leave your life behind. The man in armor roared and quickly chased after him with a staff in hand. The two exchanged blows, moved quickly, and quickly disappeared between heaven and earth. Tianji Tower. I heard the armored man's words. Many people turned their palms, and a jade slip appeared in their palms, looking wary of the people around them. At first, because of the emergence of this world, many people had temporarily forgotten the news about Tianji Tower, but after being reminded of the scene just now, many people suddenly remembered it. The news given by the master of Tianji said that after the immortal emperor appears, words will appear on the jade slips. Logically speaking. Now, it must have been the opportunity for the quasi-immortal emperor to appear, right? After many people took out the jade slips, they all found a safe place to check. What happened to the armored man just now was a reminder to them. Someone is spying on everything secretly, trying to rob him of his opportunity. How could something that I had paid a huge price for be taken away by others for no reason? Ancestor, what news did we get in Tianji Tower? Lu Qinghong asked curiously. The seventh patriarch turned over his hand and took out the jade slip, and his spiritual consciousness penetrated it. After looking at it carefully, he took a deep breath and said in a deep voice. A quasi-immortal emperor-level weapon. Hiss. Lu Qinghong took a breath of cold air. Weapons of quasi-immortal emperor level are not a piece of cabbage on the roadside. From ancient times to the present, it seems that except for Lu Wuodao, who is more defiant and has several weapons of quasi-immortal emperor level when he was the immortal king. Others, or other forces, don't even have a quasi-immortal emperor level weapon. Did not expect. The Lu clan, one day, unexpectedly got the whereabouts of a quasi-immortal emperor level weapon. It can be said that as long as they got this weapon, and then in this lost world, the Lu clan, as long as they don't encounter the Lord of the Senluo Ghost territory, they can almost walk sideways. Without further ado, let's hurry over. Lu Qinzi said excitedly. He didn't expect that the owner of Tianji Tower would be so interesting and directly gave them a quasi-immortal emperor-level weapon of the Lu clan. Isn't this partiality? What is this? It seems. If you have something to do, go to Tianji more often. Lu, it's still somewhat useful. Don't be too happy. There is no news about the chance of a quasi-immortal emperor in our jade slips. Maybe the chance of a quasi-immortal emperor is in the hands of others. The seventh ancestor said in a deep voice. This. Hear this. Lu Qinzi suddenly calmed down. Yes. Why are you here waiting for me? Isn't this an opportunity to become a quasi-immortal emperor? Now. On my side, there is no news about the opportunity of the quasi-immortal emperor, so it is certain that this news may appear in other people's jade slips. A quasi-immortal emperor-level weapon is certainly precious, but compared with the quasi-immortal emperor's chance, it is far inferior. As a quasi-immortal emperor, you can naturally refine quasi-immortal emperor-level weapons. But there are weapons. But it may not be possible to give birth to a quasi-immortal emperor-level figure. No matter what, a quasi-immortal emperor-level weapon was extremely precious. The second ancestor stood up at this time and said the quasi-immortal emperor was born by chance, so there must be a lot of noise. As long as we get the weapons, do we still have to worry about chance? The Lu family is not a good believer either. To be able to experience immortality for hundreds of millions of years in the God realm is to be able to do anything. Killing people and grabbing treasures. Any practitioner can do it without any psychological pressure. Good. The seventh ancestor nodded. He put away the jade slip and said quickly, this weapon is at the center of the world here. Let's go and take a look first. After saying that, he took a step forward and turned into a stream of light, rising into the sky. Behind him, Lu Qinghong and others followed closely. Several immortal kings of the Lu family shuttled through this dark world. Looking ahead, they saw something as dark as ink. There are huge mountains that tower into the sky, and there are also huge rivers that are so black that it makes people panic. They flow silently. There are even many creatures entrenched in them. Unfortunately, they have all fallen. There is a blue dragon that is tens of thousands of miles long, like a mountain range. Lying across the ground, its chest was dug open, and its heart was missing. Only a cold corpse was left, telling the story of the tragedy of that battle. There were also many human beings covering the large area. The battlefield is covered with broken limbs and broken weapons covering a radius of millions of miles. It is difficult to imagine how many people have died. I am afraid that calculating it in hundreds of millions is a bit underestimated. It seems that I have been here before. The seventh ancestor, who had been flying side by side with the second ancestor, lost some voice in his eyes. Looking at the battlefield below, a sense of sadness emerged in his heart for no reason. A few tears accumulated in his old eyes. His heart seemed to be, it was as if someone was clenching tightly, making him breathless and extremely depressed. He felt that the scenery around him was extremely familiar, but he couldn't recall it at all. What's going on? The seventh ancestor's voice was hoarse. Why is my memory incomplete? If he hadn't seen this world, he would never have thought that someone had tampered with the depths of his mind, but the scenes today made him almost crazy. The seventh ancestor wanted to go down and take a look, but there were waves of other immortal kings fighting nearby. The second ancestor stopped his movements. At this time, they had important goals and it was not appropriate to fight with other immortal kings. Otherwise, their journey would be slowed down. This world has been born. Sooner or later, we will find out the truth. At the worst, we can go to Tianji Tower and ask the senior owner of Tianji Tower. I think he should know everything. The second ancestor said in a deep voice. Behind the two of them, Lu Xianchen was silent for a moment, and then suddenly said, to be honest with you two ancestors, I have already let people enter the TNG building. It is estimated that there will be news soon. Since they have noticed something is wrong, they naturally have to send people to TNG Tower to inquire and see what happened that year. That's fine. The second ancestor nodded. It was about the truth of that year. The Lu family could still afford this price. After all, the Lu family's heritage was there. A few days later. I don't know how many battlefields they had crossed. Liu's family could still afford it. Several immortal kings of the clan finally arrived at the very center of the world. Here is a plain, completely empty, but in the very center of the plain, there is a mountain peak that reaches straight into the sky. It is as high as the sky, as if it was recorded in ancient books. It is like a pillar. It is millions of miles in circumference, very majestic and majestic. This mountain peak is even bigger than some stars. It is completely black and stands there quietly. On the upper part of the mountain, there are even countless. The stars are slowly rotating around the mountain peak, exuding a terrifying aura. It makes people breathless. This seems to be an ancient formation, and it also seems to be some kind of altar, forming a mysterious and complex formation. Don't dare approach him rashly. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Fantasy, me. Create a secret building at the beginning. Author, Mavericks Flying. Chapter 650. What's this? Lu Qinzi looked up, feeling inexplicably shocked in his heart. Because his spiritual consciousness was suppressed, even an immortal king could not see the end of this pillar, as if it penetrated all the way to the outside. It was extremely terrifying. Just this kind of momentum. Even though he is an immortal king, he can't help but feel a sense of insignificance. It's hard to imagine what it would be like when this world is intact. With the world as the center and the stars as the embellishments, this kind of handwriting could only be attributed to a quasi-immortal emperor, or only the immortal emperor can do it. Lu Xianchen murmured. The Lu clan is not weak in the god realm. The climate of the clan is overwhelming for millions of miles, and the foundation is profound and has been passed down for countless years. But compared with this place today, it's too far off. Just this pillar supporting the sky is millions of miles away. They can't imagine what the top of this pillar is like, and what the forces that can stay on it are like. How terrifying! Seventh ancestor, are you sure that the quasi-immortal emperor level weapon is here? Lu Qinzi turned around and asked. Good. The seventh patriarch took out the jade slip, looked at the contents, and looked at a certain star in the sky, and said softly that quasi-immortal emperor level weapon is in the star above. There shouldn't be any formations on this, right? Lu Qinzi said suspiciously. This location is at the center of the current world. Anyone who is not stupid will understand the unique advantages here. Every powerful force will probably want to occupy this place. It is certain. The forces that were entrenched here must not be underestimated. God knows how many years they have been operating. Even if they have been destroyed, no one can be sure whether there are any terrifying formations left above. They rushed in rashly, maybe in dire straits. The senior master of TNG Tower did not seem to mention the existence of formations in the jade slips given by him. The seventh patriarch said softly. After speaking, he handed the jade slip to the others. After everyone took it, they took a look at the contents, with some doubts on their faces. Tell them rationally. Senior TNG building master, what he said, there must be nothing wrong. But the reality is that this place is too weird, the consciousness is suppressed, the surroundings are dark, and the range of what can be seen is greatly suppressed. They dare not gamble. What if the gamble is wrong? That life, but it's all over. Go up and take a look. If you continue to drag it on, other immortal kings may also come over. The second ancestor said in a deep voice. Most of the immortal kings have been to Tianji Tower. They don't know what information appears in other people's jade slips, but what is certain is that every piece of information is useful. And is there only one quasi-immortal emperor-level weapon in such a big place? There may be other treasures. But they are in other people's jade slips. After I and others obtain the quasi-immortal emperor-level weapon, they may be able to after some investigation. After all, the owner of Tianji said that there is no formation here. Let me go up and take a look first. The ancestors might as well wait here first. At this time, Lu Qinghong stood up and said, he is the strongest here, so it is most appropriate for him to explore the way first. Even if he encounters any danger, he can respond in time. At the very least. This is better than it's good to be caught in one fell swoop. That's fine. The second ancestor pondered for a moment and agreed to Lu Qinghong's request. Lu Qinghong didn't hesitate at all. He turned into a ray of divine light, soared into the sky, and surged up along the pillars supporting the sky. In an instant, he was hundreds of thousands of miles away. But that's it? It still took a quarter of an hour to arrive near the first star. This star is very huge, surrounded by countless broken walls and ruins. Each one is completely black, and the specific material cannot be seen, but from a few clues, it can be seen. It's not difficult to tell. Above this star, there should have been a huge building in the past, but for some unknown reason, it all disappeared. Only a few remains remain. Lu Qinghong landed on this star, surrounded by silence and bareness. From time to time, a hurricane blew by, causing one to rattle. He raised his eyes and looked around, seeing the vastness. The entire star, the territory of hundreds of millions of miles, had no life at all. If I remember correctly, that quasi-immortal emperor-level weapon is on this star. Why is there no response at all? Lu Qinghong took a step forward. He was dressed in green clothes and looked stunning. He walked across the stars. Every step he took was thousands of miles away. Soon, he came to a place. Here, his pupils shrank, and his eyes were like the fairy sword shot out a dazzling beam of light. In front of him, he saw a series of palaces. Magnificent and huge. I don't know what era it was built in. It was majestic and shocking. Any living being can feel it when they come here. There was a strong pressure. Even after hundreds of millions of years, it has never faded. From deep in the heart, people can't help but surrender here. Standing in front of the palace, Lu Qinghong stopped, his eyes turned cold, and he pointed out, rocks flew in front of him, and huge rocks flew out. He cleared a large open space. In the deepest part, a broken plaque was revealed, which was divided into two. The two plagues are completely dark, but the gap still reveals a faint gilded brilliance, which seems to contain a hint of spirituality, telling the story of the elegance of hundreds of millions of years ago. God. Temple. Lu Qinghong raised his hand to take a picture of the two plagues. He looked at them carefully and frowned. These two plagues were too badly damaged. He could only make out the two words at the beginning and the end. From these two words, no useful information can be obtained at all. Divine Palace. Lu Qinghong laughed at himself. Shenk Hall was the first hall of Shenting in the past. There was a powerful quasi-immortal emperor who suppressed it. It became famous for a while. Even today, it is recorded in ancient books. It is admired by later generations. But the Divine Palace is now in the fairy world. What kind of temple is this? It is obviously not the Divine Palace. It is probably another palace, but the names overlap. Maybe I'm overthinking it. Lu Qinghong shook his head. He had doubted that this was the Divine Court. After all, the memories of the seventh ancestor and the others had been tampered with, so the fairy world in their impressions was really the fairy world. Maybe. Is this the original fairy world? It's just that this idea is too unbelievable, and deep down in his heart, he doesn't want to believe it. For countless years, something that has never been doubted has been overturned. As long as a normal person has not seen the irrefutable evidence, it is "I don't want to believe it," a baseless speculation. If this world still existed and was in its glory days, the power in front of us would probably be no weaker than the divine court in the past. There might be at least a quasi-mortal emperor sitting in charge. Lu Qinghong raised his head and glanced at the void. He had flown upward for countless miles, but the Tianzu in front of him still seemed to have no end in sight. This kind of weather is much stronger than the Lu clan. Such power. If he couldn't have the quasi-mortal emperor, he couldn't imagine how powerful it would be to have the quasi-mortal emperor. It is reasonable for such a force to leave behind quasi-mortal emperor-level weapons. Lu Qinghong murmured. He waved his hand and put away the two plagues. His eyes glanced back and forth around him. He whispered to himself. But, where is that weapon? After he walked back and forth on this star, there was still no result. Lu Qinghong's brows became more and more wrinkled, and he squeezed the seal with his hand. A mysterious wave spread out, completely covering the entire star. This kind of magical power can sense any spiritual things. As long as there are weapons at the level of quasi-mortal emperors on this star, they will definitely not be hidden from his eyes. But this method is a bit too conspicuous. Once the weapons at the level of quasi-mortal emperors are introduced, everyone within a radius of hundreds of millions of miles can see it. Lu Qinghong does not want to use this method unless he has to. Now, he is also forced to do so. Buzz. The next moment that enveloped the entire star, a vibration came. The entire star rumbled, and the ground kept shaking. Billions of divine lights bloomed from under the ground, illuminating countless miles around. Like daytime. A supreme aura rushed up, covering the 8 wastelands and 6 places, sweeping across all the heavens and all realms. It was as if a supreme being had awakened and was looking down at the common people, which was enough to make all souls tremble. Boom! The ground exploded suddenly. Below, a fairy phoenix rushed out, its body was fiery red, surrounded by divine flames, spread its wings into the night, covered hundreds of millions of miles in radius, and burned down the sky and the earth. At this moment, even if it was Fengzu in front of him, I'm afraid all of them will be eclipsed. This is like an ancient divine phoenix that suddenly descends into the world, overwhelming the past and future. It looks down upon the world. Any immortal king will be eclipsed in front of it. At the same time, it is almost extremely rich and precise. The aura of the immortal emperor level spread like a tide, surging like Wang Yang, causing the void to twist and almost break. Quasi-immortal emperor soldiers. Lu Qinghong looked up at the void, with a flash of shock in his eyes. He stepped up to the sky step by step, walking towards the fairy phoenix, as if he was afraid of disturbing the other party, but in fact it was the same. The imperial soldiers have spirits. Not to mention, weapons at the level of quasi-immortal emperors. The intelligence in such weapons is almost the same as that of ordinary people. It is almost impossible for ordinary immortal kings to surrender them. Either they are quasi-immortal kings, immortal emperor-level figures, or Lu Qinghong, who are outstanding among the immortal kings. Huh? What is that? A quasi-immortal emperor-level powerhouse. No, the aura is wrong, it's not a quasi-immortal emperor-level strongman, but a quasi-immortal emperor-level weapon. Who found this? Could it be that someone bought a quasi-immortal emperor weapon in the Tianji Tower? This is incredible. Look, someone is approaching the quasi-immortal emperor weapon. Far away. Many immortal kings are fighting each other. But after seeing the scene here, they all stopped in unison and turned their heads to look this way. It's Lu Qinghong. Lu Qingyu and the Lord of Tianmang Mountain stood together, their faces a little cold. The two of them were short of money and did not get much news in Tianji Tower. Therefore, after coming to this world, they mainly robbed other people's resources. At this moment, the two of them made some gains through deliberate arithmetic. But compared with a quasi-immortal emperor-level weapon, it was still far behind. We can't let him get that weapon. The Lord of Tianmang Mountain's eyes flashed, and after exchanging glances with Lu Qingyu, the two of them immediately clapped their hands in the air, hundreds of millions of miles apart. There was a roar. The sky collapsed and the earth shattered. The Lord of Tianmang Mountain and Lu Qingyu joined hands. Attack. Behind them, other immortal kings are taking action, wanting to disrupt the battle, and they don't want to see Lu Qinghong get the weapons left by the quasi-immortal emperor. For a moment, all kinds of terrifying magical powers streaked across the universe. Supreme the power makes the already chaotic laws even more disordered and can almost crush everything. At this moment, they are all gathered together and surging towards Lu Qinghong. You dare! Lu Qinghong discovered this scene. He was shocked and angry. He let out a soft drink, which spanned eternity and shattered thousands of miles of void. He grabbed out with one hand, and countless stars fell like raindrops in the sky. What blocked him before? Bang! With a loud noise, the sky exploded. The stars in the sky turned into nothingness, not even a single star. Nothing is left, every life has been wiped out. But those magical powers were still terrifying, sweeping over with vast power. In desperation, Lu Qinghong had no choice but to retreat and dodge behind the quasi-immortal emperor's weapon, hoping that this weapon could strike immediately. Really? Just as he expected. The immortal phoenix gave a long cry, and the power of the quasi-immortal emperor surged out. The phoenix roared in all directions, the stars in the sky trembled, and the world was trembling. It spread its wings and swept out thousands of strong winds. All the magical powers brought by the immortal king were wiped out into nothingness. It is indeed a weapon left behind by the quasi-immortal emperor, it is indeed powerful. Lu Qinghong's eyes lit up, he jumped up, opened his big hands, and quickly grabbed the fairy phoenix. At this time, he couldn't think of a way to put it in his bag. It might be difficult to wait until other fairy kings arrived. However, at the last moment, a skinny hand protruded out of the void and grabbed Lu Qinghong's wrist, making it impossible for him to move forward no matter what. Who? Lu Qinghong shouted angrily. Fantasy, me. Create a secret building at the beginning. Author, Mavericks Flying. Chapter 651. The hoarse voice resounded throughout the world. Although there was only one word, it contained an endless aura of killing. It was like a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood, roaring and sweeping over. Tread. The word. I fell to the ground. Then, a thin and slender figure stepped out of the void. This was a young man, but his hair was gray and his robes were extremely old. The whole person exuded an aura of decay. Like it was an ancient corpse that climbed out of the coffin. Although this young man was shaky, as if a gust of wind could blow him, but his eyes were extremely terrifying. Deep in his eyes, there was a terrifying feeling of the world breaking and the sun and moon collapsing. The scene comes. Rather than just looking at each other, it makes people want to sink into it. King Xian. Lu Qinghong's face darkened. He knew that his process of obtaining the quasi-immortal emperor's weapon would not be smooth, and there would even be resistance in the middle, especially people from the demon realm. Especially after the quasi-immortal emperor's weapon was born. Everything was with him. It was exactly what he expected. But what he never expected was that the person who stopped him at the critical moment was not the immortal king of the demon realm, but a strong man of the immortal realm. This king, Xian, was a powerful immortal king of the immortal realm. Like him, he is ranked on the immortal king list, but King Xian's ranking is not higher than his, about 7 or 8 places lower than him, ranking 61st. although the other party's ranking is not higher than his. But Lu Qinghong thought to himself, I'm afraid I won't be able to defeat him in a short period of time. After all, the gap between the two sides is not big. Are you crazy? Lu Qinghong shouted angrily. Stopping himself at this time is tantamount to helping the demon world. Or in other words, helping the underworld. If it is the other way around and helps him win the weapons of the quasi-immortal emperor, they will still be able to fight in the future, even if they cannot fight against the forest lord of the Logo Ghost territory. At least he can deal with it. No. He's not crazy. An indifferent voice came. Around the fairy phoenix, a sea of fire set off. Every piece of fire was dark green, exuding the ultimate terrifying temperature, making the void distort. In the sea of fire, a majestic figure, as he strode forward, divine light spread all over his body, and every hair on his hair was burning, like a god of fire descending from the sky. King Ying. When Lu Qinghong saw the visitor, his mood instantly sank to the bottom. He looked at King Ying and then at King Xian, with a bit of disbelief in his eyes. Did you join the underworld? He can be sure that before this, King Xian has always been the immortal king of the immortal realm, but today he suddenly joins forces with King Ying. There must be some connection between the two. The worst result is that King Xian is already the king of the underworld. A people. The heavens and worlds cannot win. It's still too late for you to abandon the darkness and turn to the light. King Xian's eyes dodged for a moment, but he quickly recovered and said in a hoarse voice. Just because of a quasi-immortal emperor. Lu Qinghong's voice was angry. Judging from the current situation, except for the addition of a quasi-immortal emperor, there is nothing stronger than the strength of the underworld. But when it comes to immortal kings. Indeed, on the underworld side, there is no one stronger than the immortal king list. More. But there are more immortal kings in their world. Even if they use human lives to fill them, they can still exhaust Lu Wudao and others to death. He really can't figure out why King Xian would join the underworld at this juncture. After all, the opportunity for the quasi-immortal emperor has not yet appeared, so why rush to draw conclusions? Just because of a quasi-immortal emperor. King Ying spoke indifferently. He glanced at King Xian and continued, the two of us join forces to fight quickly. After killing him, there are other things to do. Good. King Xian didn't hesitate at all. He held it with his backhand, and the endless divine light gathered in the palm of his hand and turned into a long black sword. As soon as the sword came out, the stars in the universe were eclipsed, as if the heaven and earth were created, and countless stars in the sky collapsed. Only the stars that were constantly rotating around the Tianzu under Lu Qinghong's feet were protected by an inexplicable force and remained safe and sound. Immortal Refining Tower. King Ying didn't hesitate at all. He gave a soft drink, and there was a dang vibration in the sky. A huge fairy tower shrouded it from above. The Immortal Refining Tower was too huge, like a tower with no top. The divine peak rumbled down, bursting out a series of sparks. Each spark rushed out of the territory and wiped out dozens of stars. The power was terrifying to the extreme. One is the 34th on the Immortal King list, and the other is the 61st on the Immortal King list. Today I want to see what is special about you and whether you are worthy of your ranking. Lu Qinghong roared into the sky, her hair disheveled, and a pair of eyes shot out. The extremely bright fairy light turned into two fairy swords, cutting the endless space. He pointed at the sky with one finger, and with the other at the ground, he divided the sun and the moon, turning the world around. The huge world seemed to be pulled by him, and even the hidden way of heaven seemed to be resurrected at this moment. Boom! The world trembled, and the world was filled with wisps of fairy energy, mysterious and inexplicable, with a cold and chilling meaning, gathered around Lu Qinghong. Follow the way of heaven, Boro Xianyuan, and the world will change 3 times. A cold voice came from Lu Qinghong's mouth. Above his head and feet, a piece of sky and earth appeared, and the two gathered toward the middle. This is a great magical power that covers thousands of miles in radius. Anyone who is in it can't, there is no way to avoid it. There is no way to hide. Town. The last word was spat out. The sky and the earth suddenly closed together, squeezing King Ying and King Xian into it. Boundless pressure surged from all directions, trying to forcibly refine the two of them. But before Lu Qinghong could breathe a sigh of relief, the immortal refining tower fell, forcibly smashing this terrifying magical power into pieces. There are some methods, but they are too immature. King Ying walked out of the seal. He was unscathed, and his whole body was full of energy. He shot out with one hand, and a talisman in his palm glowed, lighting up the heavens, and rumbling towards Lu Qinghong. This talisman was too huge. On his way forward, the universe was cut off and the heaven and earth were torn apart. The scene was extremely terrifying, and the vast divine light almost illuminated the entire universe. Countless immortal kings were frightened. Although his blow was aimed at Lu Qinghong, but at the same time, he is also warning other fairy kings that if they want to fish in troubled waters, they must first weigh their own strength. If your name is not on the fairy king list, if you join rashly, the only way is to fall. When Lu Qinghong didn't say a word. He stepped suddenly, and his whole body rose into the sky, colliding with the talisman, making a deafening roar. The fairy light was vast, all kinds of chaotic rules were intertwined, and the terrifying aftermath swept across the past and present. In the future, when the consciousness is suppressed, no one can see clearly what happened in the field. Just when many people were curious, Lu Qinghong's figure disappeared in a flash and quickly rushed towards King Xian. With King Ying compared to King Xian, he is a little easier to bully. Of course. He is just a little easier to bully, and his opponent's ranking is not particularly low. Welcome. King Xian was neither surprised nor angry. He seemed to have expected it. Among the three people present, he was the weakest. If Lu Qinghong wanted to get out of the predicament, there is no doubt that surgery on him would be the best choice. Therefore, from the beginning, he had been guarding against Lu Qinghong, and now the other party really came to his door. Bang! There was a loud noise. The immortal king and Lu Qinghong collided together. The two of them fought quickly. As soon as they came into contact, they attacked each other with thousands of moves. They were too fast to react. Even many powerful immortal kings could not catch the two. The human trajectory seems to have transcended this world and is elusive. Only the magical power that keeps blooming in the void declares that the two of them have never left this battlefield. Sure enough, none of the people on the immortal king list are weak. An immortal king whispered. He thought to himself that if he had gone up, he would have been defeated no matter whether he faced Lu Qinghong or King Xian now, but these two people were still inseparable. After several names, worse, this gap is already very weak. Even if Lu Qinghong can win, the result cannot be determined in a short time. Below Optimus Prime, the second ancestor and the seventh ancestor looked at the scene in the sky. Original. The two of them were relatively happy when they saw the quasi-immortal emperor's weapons being released, but when they saw King Xian and King Ying take action, the smiles on their faces immediately froze. Not good. The second ancestor's face changed, and he said in a deep voice, Qinghong is in danger, let's go up and help him. Before he finished speaking, he soared into the sky, and while he was in mid-air, he slapped forward with a palm. Suddenly, the sky collapsed, ghosts cried, and gods howled, and supreme magic surged forward. This palm seemed simple, but it was extremely powerful. Vast. It contains the angry blow of an immortal king. No one dares to underestimate it. However, King Ying stood in the sea of fire and walked step by step towards the quasi-immortal emperor weapon. He noticed the incoming palm print, and he lowered his head slightly and glanced at the second ancestor below. A disdainful smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. The mantis is acting like a chariot, and he is underestimating his own abilities. He pointed it out casually and pointed it into a sword. A sword light bloomed and shot out. Destructive waves were sent out, making countless people's expressions change. This sword light shocked the heaven and the earth. Especially the second ancestor. He was the first to bear the brunt and felt an unmatched aura. Bang! Poof! The sword light and the palm print collided together, and the palm print was easily penetrated. In the disbelief eyes of the second ancestor, he saw that a hole was opened in his chest. If he had not avoided it faster, I am afraid that his own the heart will be completely wiped out. Although, it doesn't matter if the immortal king's heart is broken, but it will affect some strength after all. Although the heart is not hurt now, it still makes him have lingering fears. Why is the gap so big? As the immortal king, I have also experienced the battle in the underworld. Why can't I even get past the Yingwang when I face the Yingwang again? You know. During the underworld war, I can still touch the Yingwang. Could it be that, is this the gold content of the 34th Immortal King list? Except for the strong ones on the Immortal King list, others cannot cause any trouble to the other party at all. This feeling of powerlessness makes the second ancestor feel extremely sad. Bitter. He didn't want to believe this fact, but the fact was so bloody before him. Second ancestor. Are you okay? The seventh ancestor and others rushed over, blocked in front of the second ancestor, and looked at King Ying warily. Next to him, Lu Xiancheng took out a bottle of pills and fed it into the second ancestor's mouth. Second ancestor, how are you feeling? Don't worry about me, go help Qinghong. The quasi-immortal emperor's weapons must not fall into the hands of the demon world. The second ancestor said quickly. There is already a quasi-immortal emperor in the demon realm. If there is another quasi-immortal emperor level weapon, they may no longer have anyone to check and balance them. I'm going to help. Lu Qinzi spoke. But he hadn't moved yet. Very far away. A figure as huge as a mountain flew over. This man was 10,000 feet tall, like an ancient giant. His whole body was shining, and his body was leaking out the most powerful power. Light feathers all over the sky flew out of his body, like stars one after another, gorgeous and dazzling, extremely dazzling. Another immortal king. The people of the Lu clan were stunned. These immortal kings were fighting each other just now, but the moment they saw the weapon of the quasi-immortal emperor coming out, I don't know how many people rushed here. This immortal king is obviously a celestial king. A strong man from the demon world. But there's something wrong with the way he flew over. It seems like flying upside down. Ah! Before he came here, the immortal king flew upside down and let out a mournful roar. The sound was very shrill and extremely terrifying, shocking the boundless universe. It made people feel a sense of despair. As if he encountered some irresistible monster. Boom! A roar came. The immortal king's huge body disintegrated in mid-air, and the light feathers flew away. Pieces of flesh and blood, as crystal clear as rubies, flew toward the sky with a supreme aura. From all sides of the world, many people's hearts skipped a beat and their breathing stopped. They couldn't believe that a powerful immortal king was killed so easily. What kind of powerful force could this be? Let him die like this without any resistance. Tread. 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 Before everyone could figure it out. In the bloody rain, a majestic figure, wearing armor and with cold eyes, walked over step by step. He held a spear in his hand, exhaling a terrifying breath, and the tip of the spear split the universe.